Miguel. I'm doing it again. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. And once more, Miguel. Testing, 1, 2, testing, testing. Hi, Diego. This is Gene checking in from the governing board meeting. The governing board is running a little late. Can you hold on just for a few moments? Maybe a few minutes? Thank you.
Yeah. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to get our meeting started. Today is Tuesday, January 27. On this day in 1880, Thomas Edison filed a patent for his electric light bulb. So thank you, Thomas Edison, and thank you for all the lights we have tonight. Just 8 years later, the National Geographic Society was founded. And on this day in 1926, the first television broadcast was demonstrated. And if today is your birthday, you're in good company with January 27th, shared with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, among others. And finally, this is near and true to my insatiable sweet tooth. Today is National Chocolate Cake Day. So I hope you have a family doctor approved moderate slice to celebrate today. Ms. Barrow, can we have a roll call?
Ms. Ekstrom? Here. Mr. LaRose?
Here.
Mr. Romero?
Here.
Dr. Ravi?
Here.
Ms. Shaw?
Here. All right, and for our land acknowledgement statement and our Pledge of Allegiance, we have Diego Jimenez. It looks like you're on Zoom. Hi, Diego.
Hi.
So Diego is a fifth grader at White Elementary School. Diego is a two-way dual language student and a member of the White Elementary Student Council. He is currently one of the representatives that reads the daily announcements. Diego is in White's advanced mariachi group and has been for the past 3 years. He is a leader in his classroom and with younger mariachi students. He is a talented guitarron player and also sings during performances. White truly appreciates his leadership at their elementary school. And Diego, thanks for joining us today to lead us in the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance. We can pull up the land acknowledgement and start with that.
On behalf of the governing board of the Tucson Unified School District, I, Diego Jimenez, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, and facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the California or Nation of the federally recognized tribal member of the Pasquayaki tribe.
Great job, Diego. Thank you. Can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you, Diego. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Dr. Trujillo, what agenda adjustments do we have this evening?
President Shaw, members of the governing board, we do have an agenda adjustment. We're recommending that item 9.1 move directly to follow the call to the audience for our guests from the Auditor General come this evening.
All right, any objection? I'll take unanimous consent to make that agenda adjustment. And we'll turn it back to Dr. Trujillo for our awards and recognitions.
Yes, President Shaw, members of the governing board, as always, we're very, very excited to present our opportunity here to highlight student and staff excellence. And I couldn't think of a better way to get it started than beginning our recognitions by highlighting the outstanding artistic accomplishments coming out of the Sabino Visual Arts community. I want to thank Sabino Visual Arts teacher Michael Spire for his wonderful work out there at Sabino High School. Michael's reputation for nurturing exceptionally talented visual arts students is recognized throughout the state. At Sabino High School, he teaches both 2D and 3D art, incorporates mural projects, exposes students to professional artists, and teaches gallery display, all while instilling in students a lifelong creative process. His students' works are consistently featured in the annual University of Arizona Art Museum's Our Stories exhibit. Tonight, Mr. Spire will introduce Sabino graduate Savannah Ramos-Smart, who has earned the prestigious Arizona Seal of Arts Proficiency for her in-depth visual arts project centered on fashion design. Mr. Spire, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Thanks to the school board for this opportunity to spotlight the work of a talented student. And thank you, Dr. Ashcraft, Leon Miller, and Tom Lewis for assisting Savannah with this special presentation. For 3 years, I've had the privilege of being Savannah Ramos-Smart's visual arts teacher at Sabino High School. In a moment, Savannah will be sharing some highlights from her Arizona Arts Proficiency Seal Project. The body of work, born from her own personal interest in fashion design and global cultures, celebrates the art, architecture, traditions, and other intriguing details of the world's people through her vibrant fashion designs. While Savannah's paintings are pleasing to the eye, you will see there is much more to them than mere decoration. Her layered process includes research, experimentation, practice, and revision. Most importantly, Savannah's work exemplifies the kind of effort students across Tucson Unified undergo when earning the Arizona Arts Proficiency Seal.
Thank you, Mr. Spear, and I want to thank the board and Leanne Miller, Joan Ashcraft, and Tom Lewis for allowing me to speak tonight. It is an honor to be standing here. I will be presenting one of the pieces out of 8 from my capstone project. This is the one based upon Egypt. So for my capstone project, my artist statement was driven by my passion for fashion and fashion design and my curiosity about its connection to people around the globe. Since I was young, I was always inspired by fashion and designing outfits and even hosting runway shows for my parents. And through this investigation, I found that fashion is a powerful tool for identity and how it reflects cultural diversity. I aim to understand how global fashion trends throughout history influence both individual and collective identities within a multitude of cultures and traditional ideas. So this piece I have displayed here is called Stone and Silk, which is based upon Egypt, as I said. And here we have, it's based upon classic Egyptian ideals, architecture mostly, and mythology. This piece was the one that was exhibited at the University of Arizona Art Museum. As you can see my label right here. Yeah. So here we have some of the process photos. I started off with a base layer of white paint, and then I went ahead with a golden yellow base of acrylic, and then really just laid out the background and created the figure out of charcoal from that. I had some inspiration for this piece, again, mostly on architecture. So at the bottom of the dress, it's supposed to represent like Egyptian columns and the sandy look of the Sahara Desert. On the main picture, we have more of a storytelling here, but for this representation, we just put some designs. It's a little bit different on the back. We have a scarab. It still has the scarab, but it has a silk golden fabric. And then finally, I have all 8 images from my portfolio that shows the diversity in my project and the different places I chose to do my pieces from. So we have Germany, New York, Louisiana, Greece, Thailand, Russia, and from my own culture, Puerto Rico. And that's all. Thank you.
We didn't know if you'd like to see the back of the dress. We can just turn it so you can see it.
That's beautiful.
So this was a piece that she did after her capstone project. We asked her to create it for this display tonight.
A round of applause for Savannah. And Ms. Ramos-Smart, if you would do us the honor of posing for a picture with us, we would really appreciate that. Congratulations on your achievement. Moving on to more student excellence, we have a couple of champions in the house from Rincon UHS. We'll start first with our University High School chess champion. And tonight we are congratulating Evan Yin, who captured the individual state championship in chess. Evan improved on his stellar performance from last year when he placed second and defeated Arizona College Preparatory Academy's Jaden Lee, who is attempting a historic 3rd consecutive title. We also extend a heartfelt thanks to Coach Daniel Volkman, who guided the RUHS chess team to a second-place team finish in the state and devoted countless hours to coaching, mentoring, and transporting our student athletes to competitions throughout the state. Congratulations to the champ, Evan Yin, for bringing excellence to the game of chess and bringing UHS its latest champion. So let's give Evan a round of applause. And the Penguins yield yet another champion on the tennis court. So congratulations to UHS senior Vikram Narendran, who defended his boys singles tennis state championship with a historic repeat and a commanding victory over Hamilton's Max Sheng at Scottsdale's Paseo Racket Center. Vikram becomes the first UHS back-to-back state champion in boys tennis history and boys singles competition. It is a phenomenal achievement. I remember being here a year ago and celebrating his first state championship. I am very proud of this athlete coming back and defending his title. A special congratulations to Coach Greg Arnold for leading Vikram to continued excellence. Evan and Vikram, let's welcome these champions up at front for a photo. Give them a round of applause. Acknowledgement and celebration of excellence. This is another great example of how our Tucson Unified Schools root themselves in the community and go so far above and beyond just educating our students, but actually caring for our students' families and the surrounding community and neighborhoods they serve. For more than a decade, Ken Blanchard of Edward Jones has led an annual food drive to benefit Interfaith Community Services Food Bank. Now in its second year partnering with the Tucson Unified School District, a friendly competition between two principals, Bonias Elementary and Calland Elementary sibling principals, Angela and Frankie Schiavone, has actually now grown into a really meaningful tradition, rallying students, families, and staff around the shared goal of helping to feed our community and to combat food insecurity in our community. This year's results were nothing short of inspiring. The team from Bonias Elementary collected 1,455 pounds of food, providing 1,213 meals. Calland Elementary collected 1,806 pounds, equating to 1,505 meals. Together, the schools donated 3,261 pounds of food, helping to provide 2,718 meals to families in need. Interfaith Community Services expresses deep gratitude for the generosity, energy, and the heart shown by our TUSD schools, both Bonias and Calland, especially for the way that this effort instills compassion and service in all of our students. We also want to recognize Ken Blanchard for his long-standing commitment to this cause. Although he couldn't be with us this evening, we do look forward to recognizing him at a future governing board meeting. Congratulations to both schools, their families, and staff. Generosity is making a huge difference for our community. So let's go ahead and have Angela and Frankie, our principals. Mr. Schiavone, Ms. Schiavone, if you're here, come on up for a picture. to conclude this evening, this month, or actually the last couple of weeks, saw the kickoff of the annual TCAP program, the Tucson Korea Academic Exchange Program. It is a program that truly embodies the spirit of global citizenship and cross-cultural learning. For more than a decade, the Tucson Korean Ambassador Program, or TCAP as we call it here in TUSD, has really connected Tucson Unified students with students from Ulangun and Yeongnam-gun, two beautiful communities in South Korea, fostering meaningful relationships rooted in cultural exchange, language learning, and mutual understanding. Each year, students from South Korea travel to Tucson, where they stay with TUSD host families and attend school alongside our TUSD student ambassadors. They share experiences. These shared experiences, they extend beyond the walls of the classroom through daily routines, cultural traditions, and most importantly, lasting friendships and relationships. This exchange is truly phenomenal. Our TUSD students travel to South Korea, where they are hosted by Korean families and immersed in Korean schools, communities, and culture. For many of our students, this experience is transformational, building confidence, global awareness, and a deeper appreciation for diverse perspectives. The impact of TCAP reaches far beyond travel. It does enrich our schools, strengthens international partnerships, and leaves a lasting impression on students, staff, and the host families across our district. I can share with you my experience participating in TCAP a few years ago and actually serving as a sponsor. At this point, my site administrative days and my teaching days are well behind me, so I had to get used to being responsible for supervising a small group of students and actually serving as a chaperone. So that took some getting used to, but it was so much fun to be in South Korea and to enjoy the beautiful hospitality of the delegation from South Korea, from the two communities. Always very, very supportive. Wonderful experience of South Korean culture, food, and friendship. And I really, just to put it in perspective, remember the first question I got from one of the students that was in my group that I was chaperoning when we landed in Seoul. The first thing she said is, "Can we get Domino's?" And I said, well, there's no Domino's here. So that kind of gives you a perspective of just how new of an experience it is for our young people to go overseas and to experience life in another country. So here to introduce our TCAP officials from South Korea, I think is one of the hardest working people we have in the district. She's very passionate about this program and also very passionate about her work in the Asian Pacific Refugee Student Services Department. I'd like to welcome Ms. Yoon Lee, who will recognize members of our Korean delegation here this evening. Ms. Lee?
Sure. Okay, I will. Oh, actually, they left already for high school people.
Okay.
So
Why don't you just read them?
we have about 3 people. Okay.
So I would like to introduce our officials. Ms. Song Hyo-jin, would you please come up, please? She is a teacher from Yeongnam County. And I want to introduce Ms. Kim. Oh, actually, she is not feeling good today. So I want to have Miss Kim Young-ah. She is the team leader from Ullum County. And I want to introduce Mr. Lee Jae-dong. He is an officer from Yeongnam County. And I want to feel sorry, Mr. Park Chol-ha. He is not feeling very good, so he cannot make it tonight. But we had the other regions actually be with us till last week. Mr. Gil Tae-jun, Mr. Yu Chang-on, Ms. Kim Chang-suk, and Ms. Chung Nam-gun for your information. Thank you.
As we conclude the call to the audience and before we leave awards and celebrations, a note on a little bit more of a serious tone. We'll hear a little bit more at our next meeting on what our Tucson Unified School District Administration is doing to ensure the safety of the students that we serve in the face of the current federal immigration enforcement actions. I think all of you in the community will remember about a year ago, we were very, very public in our stance that any law enforcement official, number one, must identify themselves at the gate of any of our schools, and then number two, they must provide a judicial warrant. That still stands. We have not changed that stance. That is standard operating procedures, the guidance we've given all of our principals. Before any law enforcement official does enter our campus, we do need a judicial warrant, and we need them to identify themselves. That has always been our experience when working with law enforcement partners, TPD or Pima County Sheriff's Department or any law enforcement officials we've ever interfaced with. We require a badge, we require identification, we need to see your face, and we need to see a judicial warrant. That has not changed. With that being said, we also recognize that beyond our school walls and beyond our campuses, our ability to keep our families and our students safe pretty much ends. And so we hope that all of our parents and all of our families and all of our community members really work together to understand what our families need in terms of information, services, and resources as they potentially have to navigate difficult situations. We will also be talking in the coming weeks about what we would do in the event that we would have some kind of a large-scale disruption near our schools. We'll be working with our team on some emergency planning to make sure that we have a proactive plan in the event that there are disruptive incidents in our communities that impact the daily operation of schools, and how that emergency plan would keep our families and our employees safe. So though we're here to celebrate student and staff excellence, I do recognize the challenge of these times, and we will be working with our association leaders and our administrative teams and our campus principals to put together some proactive planning in the coming weeks. So certainly want you to look forward for more information at upcoming board meetings. But with that, I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Shaw, as we conclude awards and recognitions.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, and I think we all appreciate all of the communication that will be coming out from our district office to make sure people feel heard and safe during these times. I want to thank all of the award winners that were recognized tonight. I think you all remind us of why we are proud to be TUSD. I want a big shout out to our chess champion, because I still have my chess trophy from my youth, so you are in good company, something I am still proud of and still show my kids when I'm being an annoying parent. So thank you very much for everyone for your awards and recognitions tonight. I'll turn it over to my fellow board members for our monthly board member activity report. Anyone want to go first? Ms. Luna Rose, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Oh, this is kind of loud. Okay, echo. My apologies. I will sit back. So good evening. Thank you for joining us. We haven't had board activity reports since December, so this is going to be a little lengthy, but I'll go as fast as I can. I would like to, I took a tour of TUVA, which is located on the Catalina campus, and see what they're doing, and got to sit in some classrooms, virtual classrooms, and see the exciting things that TUVA, which I think is a program that came out of a challenging time that has really been able to serve our community well. So thank you to teacher Sarah Dinley and Principal Michelle Sigafis for the invite. I also attended winter graduation, which actually happened to be at Rincon this year. And thank you to Mr. Armenta, whose team always puts on a wonderful celebration of both the winter and summer graduations. As the board liaison to the Budget Advisory Committee, we've had several meetings, and we do have an item on the agenda tonight. Also took a tour of Safford Middle School. Thank you to Dr. Catherine Kuhn for taking busy time out of her day. She also invited me to give out awards to the students of the quarter and the honor roll. So that was fun. I also met with student relations to kind of go over what they're working on and what they plan to be doing for the rest of the year and into the summer. So thank you, Anna Warmbrand, the director, and again, Mr. Armento oversees for taking time out of their day. I finally did I did a school bus ride, and I took a tour. I got up super early, got to the central location, which is off of Plummer and Broadway, and rode the bus with the kids it was the Wheeler Elementary line, and it was early, but those kids were very energetic, and all they like to still talk about is 6-7 the whole bus ride.
Oh.
So
Thought
it
we were over
hasn't
it.
gone away on the elementary level. Just letting you know, it was the whole ride too, by the way. But thank you to the transportation director, Martha Zamora, her staff, William, and bus drivers and the monitors. They're part of the heart of TUSD, and we couldn't do, and the district couldn't do without them. And so, and they're there early. They're there, start at 3:45 in the morning, and then the second shift comes in, and they probably don't close up till like 8 p.m. at night. And that's not including the special games and stuff and the buses for events. So that's almost a 24/7 operation Monday through Friday. So they are fantastic people. So thank you for all your work. I also attended the bond oversight tour at Davidson Elementary. Met up with Dr. Carter there and went over some projects. They are also doing great work across the district, so it was interesting to sit in that meeting to talk about what projects will be coming to Davidson soon. I am also now on the School Board Alliance Network through Save Our Schools Arizona. We had our first meeting over the weekend to connect with other like-minded school board members and what we can do to get more funding from the state legislature, and also what's going on here at home with federal agents. So that was a very fruitful meeting. And lastly, this morning, I met with the Latino Student Union at Rincon High School, and they are a fantastic group of kids who are really dedicated to what they believe in. They are, I think, as we become adults, some of us forget that these students they're the ones on the ground. They're the ones that are going to be living with the policies and the votes that we take. And so without them, I mean, why are we here? Why are we here without acknowledging what they're going through? And it's not an indoctrination. They are smart. They're smarter than the rest of us, this generation. And I say this as a daughter, somebody who has a senior at the same school. They are inquisitive. They ask questions. They're not afraid. And so I really appreciate them inviting me this morning. I did not get any of the pan dulce, so you owe me, Dennis, one. I'm hoping, I would like to see whether it's Latino, African American, what have you, kind of replicate at some point across the districts, like-minded students. They care, and they care about the beautiful thing is that they care about each other, and they care about what's happening at their school and about what's going to make them safe, but also, you know, they want to bring to adults what's happening. through their eyes. So I really appreciate their advocacy. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Luna Rose. We want to go next?
I'll go next.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Ekstrom.
Thank you. It's been a busy couple of months, so I will try not to take too much time. My family and I attended the TUSD Magnet Showcase at the Children's Museum. It was wonderful to see so many schools, magnet schools out there, showing the community what they have to offer. I also attended a Booth Fickett K-8 tour. Thank you to Principal Villanueva for the tour and explaining everything that goes on at Booth Fickett. I was also able to visit RUHS, Rincon, and University High Schools. Thank you to Principal Rangel and Principal Welch for giving me the tour and for the discussion. We were there for quite some time, and I really appreciate that. I also attended the Ruby Bridges Walk to School at Lineweaver. I was also at the renaming ceremony at the Davis Romero Bilingual Magnet School. That was a great event. They had mariachis come back from as long as I can remember to perform. So they had a lot of mariachi alumni there, which was really great to see. And they had Dr. Romero's family there, so it was a wonderful event. I got to tour Bloom Elementary. Thank you to Principal Brunenkamp. I toured Doolin Middle School. Thank you to Principal Santin. Paula Verde High School. Thank you to Principal Brock. I also went to Miller Elementary. Thank you to Principal Sable. I attended the Bond Advisory Committee meetings, and I had my first Health Benefits Committee meeting yesterday. I also completed the Save Our Schools School Board Fellowship Program, the first cohort, and that was months of meeting with fellow governing board members from throughout the state. I also attended the TUSD Food Services tour of their newly renovated facilities. My daughter and I were able to take a tour of the facilities and try out some new food. I was also a judge at the Monzo Elementary Great Cooking Show. That was wonderful. Fifth graders were able to come together as groups, and they cooked different foods for us. We had carne asada tacos, burritos, chocolate chip pumpkin cookies, a chocolate chip pancake with a strawberry sauce. That was really amazing. The salsas that they made were out of this world, and they all had to choose an ingredient from their garden, from the Monzo garden, to put into their cooking. So it was just a really fun event. I toured Catalina High School. Thank you to Principal Dr. Gonzalez. I went to Tuva right after. Thank you to Principal Sigafis for showing me around Tuva. I went to Sabino High School. Thank you to Principal Amadan. I got to see their wonderful new football turf. I also went to Vesey K6. Thank you to Principal Urick. And I was also a judge for the district spelling bee. I was a recording judge, which was really a great experience. And I also attended elementary school basketball games and the MLK Basketball Classic. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, or Board Member Ekstrom. It's over here, I forgot it. Mr. Romero, you want to lead the way, or Ms. Shaw?
I'll go next. Good evening, everyone. I attended the winter graduation along with Ms. Luna Rose, where the keynote speaker was Ms. Ramos Smart, who presented on her capstone project today. She was just as brilliant at the graduation as she was today, so it was great to see her and all of her artistic work. I also attended the Alternative Education Advisory Committee, where I sit as the board liaison. I want to congratulate our new chair, Ms. Felicia Chu, and I look forward to all the things that she will bring as chairwoman of that committee. Just another plug, we do have a lot of vacancies on that committee and other board committees, so if you're interested in serving, please check out all of the vacancies by searching TUSD board committees. I had a conversation with the TEA president about an item that came to us at our last meeting. So thank you, Mr. Byrne, for your advocacy. I also spoke with a parent from Davis Romero concerning an issue that her and other parents are having over there, and so I appreciate the heads up about that. Let's see, I attended the MLK celebration at Reed Park. Thank you to the organizers for that. It was great to see so many familiar faces. And unfortunately, with my work schedule, I was only able to visit one school this time around, but I stopped in at Cragen Elementary. I really wanted to check in on their leaking roof, which was an issue I saw last year when I went to campus, and it is still an issue now. And so I do encourage our bond oversight committee to check out that problem and please address it if we can, and facilities to also take care of that issue, because it's been a long time coming. And that's it for me. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Mr. Romero?
All right, so again, finishing off last year, starting into this year with Ms. Ekstrom and actually Dr. Trujillo, the Great Monzo Cooking Show. Gonna go every year. It was phenomenal. Those kids did a phenomenal job. Also met with Dr. Carter and bond oversight members at Safford K-8 with Principal Catherine Kuhn. Went out with Gap Ministries and Coaches for Charity, delivered over 100 Thanksgiving meals for families at a few of our TUSD schools, Utterback, Mission View, and Ochoa. We also stopped by Apollo in the Sunnyside District and Santa Cruz Catholic School. Attended the Food Services Open House. Met with Dr. Carter and bond oversight members at Wright Elementary. Met with Principal Jaquetta at Howell Elementary. Met with Principal Chris Jackson at Hollinger K-8. Met with Dr. Salmon, Senior Director of Exceptional Ed. Met with a TUSD hero and principal at Henry Elementary, Tom Heminger. Met with Assistant Principal Alonzo Bailey and Teacher Sarah Arnold at Tuva. Met with Assistant Principal Brooke Salston at Lineweaver. Christina was out sick that day. Met with Principal Eileen Gallet-Sewell, Principal Carla Martinez at Mansfield. And thank you very much for the Board Appreciation Cupcakes to sweeten my visit. I also did some market research and traveled out of district to Marana, met up with the Marana superintendent, and visited one of the Marana middle schools.
Great, thank you, Mr. Romero, and I'll conclude our board member activity reports. Back in December, I had a chance to visit 5 schools, including 4 elementary schools. Sewell, thank you, Principal Gao, for the tour introduction, and then Howell Elementary School, thank you, Principal Alexander. I got to tour Whitmore, thank you, Principal Figueroa, and Cragen, Principal Gutierrez, for the introduction to those campus. And finally, in December, I had a chance to visit Palo Verde. I've been there so many times, that's my first time during the actual school day. And thank you, Principal Brock, and the student ambassadors for the tour. I had a chance to speak to a number of staff members as well. And with that tour of Palo Verde, I was able to, took me 5 years, but finally visited all of our physical campuses as a school board member during the school day. And I'm really glad I got to do that over the course of my first 5 years on the governing board. In the month of January, I had a chance to visit Tuva. Thank you to testing and ELD coordinator Dinale and Principal Sigafis for the invitation and the tour. And had a chance to be a judge for the Anna Henry Science Fair, which was cool seeing the projects and giving some feedback to the amazing work over there. And thank you, CSB Moikins, for the invitation to do that. And then finally, as a board liaison to the audit committee, we had our meeting last week where we reviewed a lot of the information, some of which will be presented tonight by Mr. Hernandez, and also talk more about our internal auditor position and applicants. So excited to hopefully come to the governing board with the finalists in the next couple of board meetings. All right, and that will conclude our board member activity reports tonight. And then Ms. Luna Rose, I'm going to turn off to you for our call to the audience.
Good evening again. Members of the public may speak during the call to the audience. The governing board clerk shall be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining order where it may be appropriate. Those who speak in person or want to have their comments read shall email or call the board office or complete a request to address the board form before the meeting. Speakers who have not completed the request form are not permitted to address the board. The speaker must state their full name and topic prior to addressing the board. Speakers are encouraged to be brief with a maximum time of 3 minutes. While more than one speaker while more than one speaker may speak together in the time allowed, speakers are reminded that they are not allowed to speak more than once, and they may not transfer or delegate their time to others. If there are documents for the board, please give them to the board office staff, and they will ensure each board member receives a copy. Those attending the meeting and or speaking before the board shall observe rules of good conduct. Speakers shall refrain from inappropriate or slanderous remarks. And because TUSD serves students from preschool through high school, speakers should be aware that there may be children present and listening. At the end of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask any board member if any board member wishes to respond to a criticism, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put forth on a future agenda. No more than 2 members may address each topic. And our first speaker this evening is Dale Eugene McLaren.
Checking. That's loud. This is Dale Eugene McLaren II. Oh God, how do I say this? My issue is with what happened right after winter break. Hundreds of students had been unenrolled, myself included, over the long break. This happened most likely because the bot that is in charge of actually dropping classes and whatnot was not turned off during the break. This resulted in both self-paced students and teacher-led students being dropped, unenrolled, unable to log in to anything, not even to the website itself. That is unacceptable, especially for the teacher-led students who cannot access their schooling without a teacher to guide them. This is the equivalent of just unenrolling students over break for zero purpose. As it stands, there's only 2 ways to solve such an issue. Increase the unenrollment period to 15 business days or 21 calendar days. Alternatively, measures are to be put in place that the bot is to be turned off during longer breaks, or indeed is coded to not count days where the students are not to be involved in school. It is to that extent that I will not be a victim of this again, because I will be walking in March, or whenever that happens. It is for the future I speak for this. No other time. End time.
Thank you. Next is Dennis Ayala.
Check. Good evening, members of the TUSD Governing Board. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Dennis Ayala, and I'm a senior at Rincon High School and the president of Latino Student Union. I'm here today because of what happened on our campus with Turning Point USA. It was not safe, and the way that it was handled by the adults made it even worse. TPUSA is not a student club with opinions. They are a national political organization known for provoking students and creating hostile environments, especially for students of color, immigration, and LGBTQ. When they were on our campus, many students did not feel safe. I know this because students came up to me personally, students with immigration status, asking me if they were safe, asking me if ICE could be called on them, asking me if being seen or recorded by TPUSA officials could put their families or them at risk. No student should ever have to ask those questions or ever have to feel that way on their own campus. This fear is not imaginary, but one of my own classmates' family was deported by ICE, and she is no longer with us in this country. What is happening is real. This is personal, and when organizations like that openly support ICE that are allowed on campus, only bring fear. In moments like this, students look for their adults for protection, but I want to specifically recognize and direct our attention to a teacher. His name is Mr. Jeffrey Fransone, a teacher whose responsibility is prioritizing student safety and remaining professional during all times to protect all students. Fransone failed to do that, and he involved himself in a heated political confrontation, inciting himself with an organization. That behavior puts their students at risk, and this is not the only instance Fransone has a history of discriminatory behavior towards his students. Many students have experienced and witnessed biased statements from him, and he makes no accommodations for ELD students, and this concern has been raised and nothing has been done about it. Teachers should never use their authority to intimidate students or push political beefs. When educators take sides in political conflicts on campus, they create fear and disrupt the students, and they should never feel unsafe around adults who are supposed to protect them. I'm asking the board to take this seriously and to reevaluate policies that allow outside political organizations on campus. Hold staff accountable and when their actions put students in danger. And listen to students of color and immigration status and students. We deserve schools where we feel safe, respected, and protected. Right now, that's not happening, and it's your responsibility to change that. Thank you.
Next is Aviana Martinez.
Speaking. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Aviana Martinez. I am the secretary for Latino Student Union and also a student at Rincon University High School, working alongside Dennis Ayala to discuss similar issues today about staff, or about things on staff and, campus. So first thing I want to mention is, I'm trying not to mention names that much, and I'm going to try to go as quick as possible, but Mahdi, who is a Black Muslim student, was suspended. I first want to mention the argument him and Jeffrey Fransone had. The argument was about Turning Point USA and about the teacher's political opinions, which he shared while hosting Club America on campus, which, like Dennis Ayala said, hosted Turning Point USA. I also want to mention the fact that a white student was featured in this argument and the white student was not suspended. And I wanted to mention that Jeffrey Fransone was recording the students without permission, and there were also people, including the sponsor from Turning Point USA, on campus last Thursday who were recording students in the heat of the moment in order to kind of mock students and make students angry and show them that kind of their opinion didn't matter and laugh in their faces. Teachers were recording students in the heat of the moment, including Fransone. I want to emphasize Fransone's importance in this discussion. So I first want to mention Tam. Fransone would pick at Tam last year, and I want to emphasize that Tam is a foreign student who is not from America. Fransone teaches refugee students, and Tam was one of the many examples of the teacher's discrimination towards minorities on campus. He refuses to accommodate ELD students. Turning Point USA and America Club on campus were calling students who were using their First Amendment right borderline terrorists in order to kind of make them angry for being able to use, like I said, again, their First Amendment right. Fransone teaches earth and science, which has nothing to do with ICE or politics. This is unreasonable and not fair game at all. His political opinions also violate TUSD policy when it comes to sharing his own political opinions again. This is totally inappropriate, and again, one thing I want to mention is that he was showing students videos of Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk debates saying that students should be more like him, and which is totally inappropriate because he does teach earth and science. I believe all students deserve to have a place on campus unless it hurts people. The letter of the law is not always right. Following the law doesn't mean that it's ethical, meaning that even though we're following TUSD policy and allowing students to speak, it is not ethical to let hatred on our campus, especially on such a diverse campus with that being Rincon University High School. And I also want to emphasize that just because you have a plan doesn't mean the plan can change, since we had just had a walkout that Tuesday about similar issues, I would like to emphasize my disappointment in both Ms. Welch and Mr. Rangel, who are the principals at Rincon University High School, for not being able to accommodate these issues, knowing how this would end in a way. And we just all deserve to have a platform to talk, regardless. But.
All right, next is Lillian Fox.
My name is Lillian Fox. Good evening, President Shaw, members of the board, Superintendent Trujillo, and Yolanda Barboa. Now, I'm going to try to be organized tonight. Tonight, you're going to hear about declining birth rates. TUSD enrollment is declining a lot because it's an uncompetitive school that doesn't do a good job of educating kids. When Trujillo was hired, TUSD was proud to be the second largest school district in Arizona. It is now the third largest school district, and CFO Hernandez has assured us that very shortly we will have shrunk to the fourth. That is not because of declining birth rates. That's because we're failing to keep the kids here. Parents tend to who are moving here, try to buy houses in school districts that are high-performing, good school districts. They don't buy them here. And the parents and families who do live here, too many of them eventually send their kids to charter schools or to better schools in other districts. That shouldn't go on. We need to be a competitive district that does a really good job of educating kids. Currently, in TUSD, 73% of our kids are not proficient in reading and writing. 77% of our kids are not proficient in math. That's horrible. It's just wrong. And we have a part-time superintendent who hired a political science major to be the CFO of this district. This is a district with almost an $800 million budget, 7,000 employees, and I think still 40,000 students, I'm not sure. And so as a result, in the last 2 years, you have gotten 2 letters of noncompliance with USFR standards. That has never happened before. You can look at the Auditor General's website, and as far back as they go, this is the only time TUSD has gotten letters of noncompliance with standards. Furthermore, we have 2 people from the Auditor General's office tonight to talk to you, because now TUSD is identified as being in high risk financially. That also has never happened before. It just shouldn't happen. You also have a proposal to renew Dr. Trujillo's contract for another 3 years. He's been here 7 years. That is more than enough time for him to have made some improvements in the district. We have steadily gotten worse, not better. You need a highly qualified, good superintendent who has some ideas and plans about how to turn this district around and how to work on the problems we have. We can't afford another 3 years of just kind of dwindling away. Thank you very much.
Next is Pilar Adajan? No? Okay. Now, Regina McLaren?
Good evening. I am Regina McLaren. I'm a parent of Dale McLaren. He currently attends Tuva/Cole as a self-paced student and has for about 5 years now. I'm pretty sure Miss Sadie at least recognizes us. We've been up here a few times. We are concerned because my son not only got dropped from his classes the instant winter break was over, he got disenrolled altogether. And it took 2 weeks to get re-registered and all of his classes restored, etc. Meanwhile, he was planning on meeting with the spec ed coordinator via Zoom on Tuesday, which would have been the 7th, right after school started again. But he couldn't because his whole file was gone. him and several hundred other students, a mixture of self-paced and teacher-led, got dropped, not just dropped, disenrolled. They had to re-register every one of those students. A litigation-minded family would probably try to take the legal route because that is not good. There's no reason for that to have happened in the first place. I agree with my son that the drop rate in the system should not be 14 calendar days. It should be 14 or 15 business days or 21 calendar days. That would cover the long winter break. Now, I asked specifically in the PTO meeting when Ms. Sigapus was president, the first PTO meeting for the school at the beginning of the school year, and I'm like, you know, winter break's pretty long. What are we going to do about this drop period? I was told specifically that that feature would be turned off during winter break. Obviously, it wasn't. The ball got dropped somewhere. In addition, my son was blamed for him being deregistered because he didn't log on first thing Monday morning. Apparently, all these kids got dropped and unregistered because they didn't make tracks to either log on during break or after break. It didn't matter. My autistic child has an active 504 plan and has had for several years. He missed out on 2 weeks of his education. I mean, he was sitting with Lisa on Zoom, just chatting with her the twice a week that he meets her, but he missed out on his 2 weeks of education because he couldn't even access his classes, much less get onto the website. That goes for all the students. My son's walking this summer. We don't need to worry about him anymore, but he's concerned about the future if we can just train the AI better that runs Synergy or whatever the devils you guys are using. Thank you and have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you. Next speaker is Cameron Rodriguez.
Thank you for listening to me speak. I'm Cameron Rodriguez. I'm a teacher at Rincon High School. I'm addressing civil rights compliance and retaliation. Last Friday, I filed a federal retaliation complaint with the Federal Department of Ed's Office of Civil Rights. I offered the board the chance to resolve the civil rights issues I raised with them 5 months ago, twice before I filed, ignored. My federal complaint details 5 nonstop months of retaliation from TUSD that have left me permanently injured. Ignored. I wrote directly to President Ekstrom and Shaw, Dr. Shaw, with serious civil rights concerns back in September. Ignored. I even had a personal referral from Adelita Grijalva, but still ignored. Except for one promise to look into things from Dr. Shaw, after which I was ignored. TUSD's signature tactic. When even Representative Grijalva's word could not get this district to lift a finger, I understood something painful. TUSD was not going to help me. TUSD was not going to help anyone. After I filed OCR, the response from TUSD was, the audience will enjoy this, we won't do anything until Trump gets to town. Exactly what Tucson families and children want to hear. Why should a teacher have to turn to Washington, D.C. just to receive basic medical care? I had no choice. Nobody from my own Democratic city would talk to me, having thrown our Congresswoman's referral into the garbage. Is this what elected office is for in the city? To ignore local harm until the Trump administration forces you to act? Representative Grijalva has spent her life building trust in this city, but somehow in TUSD that trust means nothing. And if her name means nothing here, what does that say about this board? Maybe the people in these chairs believe the community won't notice. Maybe they believe their reputations can survive anything, even this. Maybe they believe a disabled teacher can be ignored forever. Maybe it means I'll be forced to come up here a 4th and 5th time, this time in a wheelchair. It only took 1 year out from the USP before the board and district leadership invited them right back in. I asked the community to take what I said into account when the vote is put onto the floor to extend leadership's contract, especially given leadership's statement of support for families against federal reach into Tucson. Thank you.
right, next is Georgina Augusto.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Trujillo, and staff. My name is Georgina Isabel Agosto. This is my second time speaking before the board, and I am here again as a concerned parent about substance abuse and drugs in our schools, including vaping, marijuana, and other substances. I am requesting transparency. TUSD received over $7 million in settlement funds from lawsuits directly against e-cigarette companies, JUUL Labs, and Altria Group to allocate for student support and intervention, specifically how it is being used to address substance abuse prevention and early intervention. Parents deserve to know who is being served and whether these efforts are actually working. To be clear, I am not asking for data from the National Guard presentations. What I am asking is how many first-time substance offenders are being served? How many second-time offenders are being served? And what interventions are provided before students are suspended? At this time, it appears the district is reacting after incidents occur rather than preventing them. I am also concerned about how the 5 community health workers, the 2 program supervisors, are tackling student substance misuse and vaping. Are they supporting level 1, level 2 substance related to offenses, or only stepping in at the level 3? If intervention only happens after repeated violations, then we are missing the opportunity to help students early. I would also like to know whether the district tracks data on students suspended for substance use and what supports such as counseling, referrals, or treatment are offered to help those students, not just discipline them. Lastly, at the last meeting from December 9, 2025, I spoke. I was told a board member would follow up with me. Ms. Shaw, Mr. Romero, that follow-up never happened. I want to be clear. I am not here to be acknowledged and then ignored. I am requesting a direct response, a timeline, and a named point of contact. I am aware and understand that only 2 board members can respond to the audience. I understand that. So, God bless you all. Thank you for this opportunity again.
Thank you. Yes, we are at the 20-minute mark. We have 8 speakers left.
President Shaw?
Go ahead, Ms. Shaw.
I'd like to extend the call to the audience.
The remaining 8 speakers? We have 8 more left, you said?
There's
Yes,
8 in person and how many to be read?
just 8 in person.
Just 8, yes.
All right, I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Luna Rose.
Okay, next is Gina Santos.
Hi, good evening. I'm Gina Santos. I'm a speech therapist in TUSD. I'm a parent. 2 of my children have graduated from TUSD schools, and I'm currently a parent of a middle schooler. At the middle school where I work, the main hallway is decorated with essays, drawings, and poems in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. And when you look at these mix of work, there are several drawings in red ink that read "Stop ICE," and these are from middle schoolers. One especially heartbreaking piece shows a figure shooting another figure, and it's titled "No More ICE." Another student wrote, "I dream of going everywhere with my mom and not being afraid of her being taken." Another shared in her "I Dream" essay is that she dreams that families are not taken away because of their race. The reason why I'm giving you this example is because I want you all to understand that this is what the vibe is, like as the young people would say, what the vibe is in our schools right now. We have a lot of fear and anger and anxiety, and I have a whole thing I was gonna say, but in light of what Dr. Trujillo had mentioned that next week we're gonna be hearing more about TUSD's response to ICE, I wonder that if this response has been in place, it doesn't feel like it. The response that we have seen has to me more than talking about judicial warrants, talking about masked men. You have families who have fathers who are detained. You have families whose moms have been deported. And it's not just people who are undocumented. As we have seen in the news, citizens are getting picked up. My husband is a naturalized citizen, and he dropped me off and was gonna pick me up. And for a moment, I thought, I wonder if he got picked up by ICE, and who am I gonna call at this moment? So what I would ask is that, yes, we have policies and procedures in place, but it seems that our admins are afraid to talk about it. Teachers that we talk to don't seem to really know what the plan and procedures are. And we want, if we could, next week, when we hear about it, what is different than the status quo? Because we are not living in the status quo. People are being disappeared. Citizens are being murdered. What is different? What is different? This year has been wild. It's been scary. We all feel like we're in danger. Who are the people that TUSD are collaborating with to come up with the plan? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the families you all are talking to? Who are the agencies? We need to lean into a different status quo, because it's whatever's doing is not working right now.
Thank you. Next is Betts Putnam Hidalgo.
Now when ICE invades our towns, we grannies take a stand and face those fascist terrorists together hand in hand, so we can build a nation undivided, kind and strong, a place we all belong. My name is Betts Putnam Hidalgo. I'm a granny now. I've always been a raging granny, but now I actually have grandkids. Public schools are supposed to be a place that we all belong, and I would like to know, what is your plan? We just heard a person who teaches asking who you're relying on for your information to make your plan. That in and of itself, if I may be so bold, is not a good sign as to where your plan is coming from, because you've got people on the ground who could be offering suggestions and who should be being heard. The person who deals with a crying 5-year-old because they're scared is who you should be listening to. No offense, Robert Ross, I know how important you are in this district, but unless you're playing that role, you should be in the background, and these people behind me should be in the foreground. So when this nightmare first started, I tried to get the schools, I went through Dr. Trujillo's office and I tried to get a poster of Know Your Rights information put up at the schools. A couple of iterations from him to me and through Nicholas, et cetera, and I found out that the only thing that the district can post is stuff that the district writes itself. I thought myself, since I was a parent, I thought, really, so scholastic book fairs are TUSD written? I didn't think so. I thought that was an outside vendor, and I thought when my kid was in school that they were all over in advertisements. Well, the health and safety of your students is just as important, and I think that there should be Know Your Rights information posted everywhere. And beyond that, I'm going to give you 2 cards. One of them is a rapid response number. The other one is a Know Your Rights card. These are not expensive. You have a print shop. You should be sending these out to 40,000 families. So my point is simply make a plan. You have an all teachers training coming up. train your staff to know at their site what is going to happen. What exit door do they go to? What doors are locked? What doors are not? The stuff about, I respect your plan,
time is up.
but frankly, ICE doesn't. Thank you.
Bets, if you can hand it over to Yolanda, then she can give it to us so we can get through this. Thank you. Next is Kevin Oberg.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Oberg, and I'm here to talk about the item 9.1 on the agenda. I have been for the last 30 months or so a member of your audit committee. And the issue you're going to speak about later on tonight is the reason I simply wanted to get up and say that the audit committee is there to fully support you and recognizes, just as the speakers have brought up, you have a lot of agendas. And anytime you have a group of people who I believe is as competent as your audit committee is, you ought to take advantage of them to solve the problems. A long time ago, I always wondered, why is a school district office non-political? All the other offices around Pima County, you're either a D or you're an R, but all school boards have no D or R attached to them. And I think the speakers who have just preceded me show the reason that this is all about human dynamics. This isn't about necessarily right or wrong, because all kinds of people have a lot of different opinions. And you need to address those qualitatively. And that's why I'm participating on a committee that is quantitatively oriented. You have the head coach sitting over here, and he has his head assistant coaches. You need to depend upon them on the day-to-day activities. And you all need to make the strategic decisions. And you're going to be talking about a big one when you get to item 9.1. And I look forward, as a member of the audit committee, to helping you solve that major issue. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Marlene Avellino.
Hello, my name is Marlene Avellino. I'm a parent to two elementary age students that attend Roskridge Elementary. Dr. Trujillo, I appreciate your comments at the beginning saying that you are about to start getting a plan together. And I must say I am disappointed having seen videos of children in Chicago being taken by ICE. I feel like here in such a vulnerable area where we know we are going to be targeted, that plan should have already started. I appreciate wanting to stay within, like everybody else said, the line of the law, and we also understand that that is no longer the time that we are living in. And while I know that procedures need to be in place, I also want to be reassured that staff is always prioritizing student safety and each other's safety, even if they have a signed warrant, even if they say they're supposed to be there. Because these are dangerous times, and for years I've had to tell my children that they're safe going to school, knowing that they're not, and now it is even more dangerous. I appreciate your efforts, and I urge you to reflect the urgency that we all feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sarah Diralou. My apologies if I butchered that.
You did great.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Sarah Diralou. Thank you to the board for giving this space to speak. I am a TUSD alumni. I'm a parent of a TUSD student, auntie by blood to 6 TUSD students, and auntie by love to many more. I'm a social worker at the Teenage Parent High School, where I serve young student parents and their families. I am deeply committed to this district and the families that are a part of it. I'd like to request a more clear plan and more support for sites to review protocols around how our district and sites are to respond to immigration and customs enforcement. My students, families, and colleagues continue to ask, what will we do if ICE enters our building without a warrant? Where will we go? What will happen to our babies if our students are unlawfully detained? When I share with families the Know Your Rights cards, I'm asked, pero qué va a pasar si no me escuchan? What will I do if they don't listen to me? What will I do if they don't respect or honor my rights? My 9-year-old son, unaware of all of the ins and outs, is asking me, can ICE take kids? As a social worker, I know that having a clear plan in the face of uncertainty can really help contain fear and terror. When fear is contained and our communities and schools feel more prepared, our students can have their energy go to learning and growing, and our staff's energy can go to teaching and supporting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Eliseo Gomez.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. My name is Eliseo Gomez. I'm a science teacher at Pueblo High School, and this is actually my first time speaking in this hall. And that comes at a critical time locally, statewide, and nationally, as federal agents are ramping up their operations pretty indiscriminately. As you saw from Tuesday of last week, our students are thinking about this as well. Thousands of students walked out across multiple schools in our school district, and they are coming to us, the teachers and staff, to say, so what are we gonna do? So what's happening? What's the plan? What's in place? And currently, I can't tell them too much because from the district, there isn't too much that is in place. I'm here tonight to ask you, Superintendent, to resend your letter that you sent at the start of last year. That was really heartening to families. It would be great to continue to send that as we've had new parents that have been enrolled or enrolled their students into the system. It would be great as well to resend policies and direct administration to train their staff so that all the staff are systematically trained to support our students with knowing their rights, with knowing how to observe, knowing how to report ICE in their community and let their teachers know that they've seen that. We are not acting as proactively as we need to be, which is a problem because law enforcement is. So we need to get ahead of the curve here. And recent events in Minneapolis show us that, the reality of the moment is that legality is out of the window. So what I'm asking you to do tonight is truly the bare minimum. And my final ask is just to continue listening to us and working with us. As we know what's best for our students, we're also in the community. We're involved with other groups that are working to protect our students, our neighbors. And I want to believe that all of us here in this room have our hearts in the same place, which is the right place, that our mission is all aligned. So let's act like it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next we have Pilar Ruiz.
Good evening. My name is Pilar Acosta Ruiz, and it's been a long time since I've been here. I see not everybody's happy with you guys still. I'd like to say that I am glad to see that the Arizona Auditor General's office is going to be here tonight to report on TUSD's financial risk. People have been coming to this podium for literally years and years and years, talking to you about the financial instability of this district. And yet you continue, not maybe some of you personally, but this district continues to put Band-Aids on the situation instead of actually fixing things. And it's just not sustainable. Band-Aids and shell games are not going to fix the problem. So hopefully this might hopefully be a wake-up call to you all tonight to do something different. As Mr. Oberg spoke, you guys have really qualified people on the audit committee. You had a really, really exceptional internal auditor who unfortunately you all ran off by trying to control what she did and trying to audit her, which is not the point of, that's not what was supposed to be happening. Because she told the truth, she left because you all ran her out of here. And you know, that's the truth. And when people speak the truth in this district, problems happen. But the truth always comes out. So I hope that the Arizona Auditor General's office knows also, since they're here, that they go back and look at all the complaints that have been submitted about the financial alleged conflicts of interest that have been submitted on some of our board members. You know, the district has been hemorrhaging, as I said, for years, and a district this large needs to have qualified people at the helm. Somebody spoke, I think Lillian. Lillian gives you guys so much great information, and you don't even read it. You don't even pay attention to it, because this woman is pointing out the facts for decades. She's been pointing out the facts. You just don't want to hear the truth. You know, I don't know of any other organization as big as TUSD that is run by somebody who doesn't have a degree in accounting, let alone is not a CPA. She's right. All the things she talked about, these things have never happened in this district. She's right on. Like, you got to do something different. So we're not only failing with fiscal management, we are failing with reading, writing, and math, and that has not changed. So I hope you do something different tonight.
All right. And next speaker, Victoria Bodiani.
Hi, I'm Victoria Bodani. I'm a Pueblo High School teacher as well. I'm here to also speak about ICE and coming up with a plan. And my specific ask is that we have signs put outside of schools, outside of the gates, that are asking that ICE cannot enter without a warrant. I realize that having a sign is not enough, right? They are going to do what they are going to do. However, having a sign there reassures our families, it reassures our students, it allows them to come into school with at least some modicum of safety, and just having those yellow signs that are all over Tucson and the country at this point that are asking that they do not enter without a warrant is the very least we can do, okay? And they specifically say all law enforcement officials do not enter without a lawful search warrant. In addition to that, all of our staff should be trained to know what an official search warrant looks like. There are so many resources in the community that we have not been tapping into that could be preparing our school monitors, our safety personnel, so that they know. Our front office staff, they want to know what they are supposed to be looking for. If ICE comes into our school, they know that they need to look for a warrant. They don't know what a warrant looks like. We need that we need that training. We need know your rights trainings for staff. We need know your rights training for students. And in addition, you need to have a plan that's created with us. Look out there. All of those are educators at high schools, at elementary schools, at middle schools. Y'all aren't the ones who are going to get arrested when they start coming through those doors. We are. Listen to us, please. The last thing that I want to say is families are scared, and to not have a hybrid option at this point is irresponsible, especially for our ELD students. TUVA is not a realistic option for them. They do not get the services that they need, and they are scared, especially our ELD students, to leave the school that they're at, re-enroll into a new school, have to go through that whole rigmarole again, and then in addition, they don't know if they're going to be safe. So please consider a hybrid option or a remote option for those students who want it.
without having to go to TUVA. Thank you.
And Dr. Shaw, that concludes call to the audience.
All right, thank you, Ms. Luna Rose, and thank you everyone for being here this evening. Next is the board's opportunity to respond to criticism, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. And a reminder that no more than 2 members may legally address each topic. And I will just keep the microphone for a moment just to thank everyone for coming tonight to speak about our immigration and enforcement crisis that we're having. As an American with brown skin, with an immigrant parent, and a parent of TUSD children, including one with very brown skin like my own, my family, like a majority of families in our community, we're all very acutely aware of the othering and the scapegoating being perpetuated by our federal government right now. My 3 kids now have copies of their passports and birth certificates in their backpacks. And I know my second graders I still don't know exactly why this is happening and what's going on. I feel for all of our members in our community who are not just feeling targeted, but are targeted, who have accents originating from outside the U.S., who are undocumented and trying to be productive members of our community. This is not the America of indivisibility, of liberty, of justice for all. And shame on us for letting this America be the America it is right now. I definitely appreciate all the feedback and all the folks here who spoke. I know I've had conversations earlier this month with Dr. Trujillo on how we're communicating out our work here to address ICE and address immigration issues, and thank you for pushing our district to be better on this, and we will definitely be following up to make sure that we're communicating more effectively, we're having resources for parents, for teachers, for students, and we are addressing this together as a community. Ms. Shaw, then Ms. Ekstrom, and Ms. Mona Rose.
I echo the sentiments of Dr. Shaw, and I want to thank everyone who came out tonight to speak. I'll start with Dale McLaren and his mother. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'm so sorry that this has happened, despite your best efforts in checking with the principal and making sure that that wasn't going to happen again. And so I'd like to ask staff to review that matter, not only at TUVA, but at all of our school sites, because we can't afford to lose students over just a minor issue with technology. Thank you to all the students from Rincon who came and spoke about issues happening at their campus. I'd like to ask staff to review the matter about the student being suspended, about the teacher, and also about guests on campus recording students, which I believe is against our board policy. Let's see. For Ms. Augusto, if we can get, I'm not sure if on the speaker card people put their email address or a way to contact them, but if we could get her contact information so we can follow up with the report that Ms. Warren-Brand gave us. Let's see. And then the issue raised by staff regarding ICE, thank you all for your advocacy, your ideas. I would like us to form a community task force to address the issues and, things that we haven't done and things that we have and things that we should have done so that we can get it right. Thank you for all of your ideas. I would also like to ask that we immediately send home a Know Your Rights card to every family in the language of their household. And that's it for me. For the Know Your Rights stuff and the task force, I would ask staff if we could move quickly on those matters. Thank you.
I know that only 2 governing board members are allowed to address each topic, but I'm going to go ahead and address the topic of ICE because it is important to our community and to those who showed up today. I agree with you. I was on the phone with the principal at Drachman on Friday and with staff, and I have this I grew up in South Tucson. I know where these people are gonna go first, and it's disgusting. I also have a child with darker skin, and I have conversations with her father every day. Do we need to keep something in the car in case one of us gets pulled over and are taken in? Like, where is my child going to go? I have these same fears as you all do, but I also recognize that I'm lighter skinned, so, you know, there's that too. We need to continue to be proactive. We cannot be reactive as a district. So with Ms. Shaw's recommendations, I think this needs to start tomorrow. We really need to get on this, and we need to know and we have to make sure that our families know that we are doing everything possible to keep our staff, our students, and our families safe. Doing the same is not gonna work anymore. We really, really, really need to move on this quickly. And I don't want something happening and then us reacting to it. I mean, Drachman was an eye-opener because that could have been on school property if that car had just turned, you know, a little bit after 22nd Street. We need to do everything possible to get these teachers trained, to get our front staff, office staff trained, to get our principals trained, because I know that they are fearful for what could happen, and we just don't know. So whatever that takes, Dr. Trujillo, we really need to move forward. And I also agree with Ms. Shaw, we do need to look into what happened at Rincon University High School with Turning Point. That is unacceptable. We cannot have outsiders filming our students. It's ridiculous. So that needs to be looked into as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Since Ms. Shaw and Ms. Ekstrom kind of touched upon the Rincon issue, and I think the students know I was there this morning where I stand, but I just wanted to say to the students who came, thank you so much. I'm always a big proponent of students coming to speak to us, because you are the boots on the ground. You're the ones that are living it a day by day, and we come every other Tuesday. And so please, you know, tell all your friends. I mean, I think it's vitally important, especially in this time, to hear from you, because you are going to be, I think, feeling it more than some of the adults. And I really deeply appreciate your advocacy, and you know how to reach out to us. So I wanted to thank you. And thank you to everybody that spoke this evening. It's just such a terrible time, and I don't want to talk about it anymore, because then I'll probably start crying here on the dais. So I will turn it back to Dr. Shaw.
All right, before we move on, do you want to take a quick 5-minute break or just keep on going? Let's do a quick 5-minute break. Thank you, everyone. We're going to reconvene the meeting. Dr. Trujillo. Governing board members, we're going to reconvene the meeting. All right. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. Dr. Trujillo, items 6.3 to 6.4.
President Shaw, members of the governing board, the administration recommends passage of the consent agenda as arranged and presented to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Any governing board members, any questions or anything you'd like extracted from the consent agenda? Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. I'd like to pull item 6.3.
Okay. All right, I'll move items 6.2, 6.4. I think that's what we have, right? Okay, 6.2 and 6.4 as part of our consent agenda. All right, item moved by myself, seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have item 6.3 to discuss, approval, let me go to here. No, item 6.3, here we go. Approval of Native American policies and procedures for Tucson Unified School District.
Yes, if our assistant superintendent for student leadership or student success is here, he can chime in. But as it says, we have a yearly agreement that we are responsible for that outlines the parameters for our receipt of impact aid funds. Impact aid funds are allocated to schools and districts that reside in zones that aren't subject to federal or state taxation. So we have military bases, and then of course we have our tribal communities that we see with Ta'ana Otham and that we have with the Pasquayaki. And we have to submit a plan every single year as a condition for the receipt of those funds for collaboration and a communication with our partners, with both Pasquayaki, Ta'ana Otham, in terms of academic information, ridership information, various aspects of access to school. So I'll ask Frank Armenta if you want to add anything more to item 6.3, our Native American policies and procedures.
Good evening, Governing Board. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. On this item, there's two items that are very specific to this is our monthly articulation that we have with Pasquayaki Tribe that focuses on the academics of our students. The second part is working closely with Pasquayaki Tribe and our parents, ensuring that they get the information in a timely manner so that way they can see the progress of the academic achievement of their children.
Thank you. And I pulled this item years ago, probably my first year as a governing board member. My questions then are going to be pretty much the same tonight. How many comments did we receive about this plan?
I did not receive any comments on that, nor did Roxanne Begay. It's specifically to the Pasquayaki Tribe and her parents.
Right. Because one thing in this item that I noticed is that if participation is low, TUSD will reevaluate its plan and consult with the tribe to enhance participation. Also in this, the attachment, it notes that the Native American Advisory Committee meets once a month to address comments and concerns of parents of Native American children, and that the minutes are posted on the district website. I wasn't able to find the minutes or any of the meeting dates either on our district website or the Native American Student Services Department's website. And so where are these minutes being posted, and is this committee subject to open meeting law?
First of all, they do meet, and it is run by Roxanne Begay and the tribe. I don't know where those are currently, but I will make sure to get those right back to you to identify where they're at. And as far as the open meeting laws, I do not believe they're under jurisdiction of that, but I can also double check for that.
Yeah, I'll chime in here. It's not a governing board appointed committee, so it's a regular parent committee or community committee, so there's no open meeting law that applies.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Still, because within the policy or the plan that we're going to approve, it states that minutes will be posted on our district website. Again, it's hard to find things on our website, but I looked as well as I could, and if a parent is looking for them and they can't find it either, I imagine that maybe they're not posted or they're hidden so well that nobody can keep abreast of those issues. And currently it states that the info will be sent via email and also the Pasquayaki radio station KPYT. I did ask a friend who is a tribal member if he was aware of this correspondence going out. He didn't note that he ever remembered receiving that. And so I'd like to ask that we pull this item and reconsider it at a later date once we get some of the information back in. And I guess I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion to bring this item back with further information. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, unanimous votes. So we'll bring this back to us with the information that's requested. Thank you.
Thank you, good.
All right, next we go to item 9.1, Auditor General, excuse me, Arizona Auditor General's presentation on TUSD's financial risk analysis for the 24-25 fiscal year. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, I'd like to tee this, I'd like to send it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Ricky Hernandez, to kind of tee up the presentation and welcome our guests from the Auditor General's office.
So good evening, board members. As noted, we have a presentation for you on the district's financial risk. As has been alluded to and directly noted, the district has been identified as among the highest financial risk school districts in Arizona. So we have staff here from the Auditor General's office. We have Amanda Nguyen, Senior Accountant from the Auditor General. She's going to drive for a little bit. And behind me, I've got Megan Heiger, Director of Accountability Services Division at the Auditor General's office, and they will go over the risk analysis with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ricky, for the introduction. Good evening. My name is Megan Heeger. I'm the Director of the Accountability Services Division, as Ricky stated. Thank you, first of all, for making time for us to come here today and share the results of our most recent financial risk analysis, and specifically walk through your district's results as one of the 9 highest risk districts that we identified in this year's report. If you aren't already familiar with our annual financial risk analysis, this is a report that we've been publishing since December of 2020. For the analysis, we look at 10 different financial risk measures that look at the most current data available to identify districts that are at the highest risk of not being able to operate within their budget constraints and available cash resources. The purpose of this analysis is information providing. We're providing information to district decision makers like yourself and stakeholders to have information that you can use when you're making certain budget and finance related decisions for your district. Our analysis is a year-round process, so we gather the newest information as it's available, and we reach out to the highest risk districts to share the most recent data with them, talk about what actions they are taking or planning to take to address those different risk measures. Amanda, Senior Accountant in my division, met with Dr. Trujillo and Mr. Hernandez in December to talk about the most recent high-risk measures, which is when your district moved into that highest risk group. After that, Mr. Hernandez prepared a financial risk action plan using the template that we provide, and that's posted along the district's page on our website. We will have time at the end of our presentation if you have any questions on the analysis process or your specific results. So just to mention, because it is a web-based report, our plan is to just walk through the website to show you the best functionalities of it. We are going to be kind of swapping back and forth. So Amanda will be driving, I'll be speaking, and then we'll swap back and forth just because there's a lot of moving around on the site. So just wanted to give you a heads up that I'm about to walk away, but she'll be coming up. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amanda to talk about the first parts of it.
Hello, my name is Amanda Wynn. I'm a senior accountant at the Auditor General's Office, as was stated. So I'm going to be taking you through the first part of the website. So if you are to try and get to this, right now we have it on the main page, but if you wanted to get to it, we do have it on the very front page of azauditor.gov. Just scroll down to the very bottom. There's a financial risk analysis link right there. And it will take you to a landing page where you can then navigate to this page, which is the overview page, or the state results or the district results. We also provide a data file there. It's also on this page, which I'll show you. All right, so this top part of the page is kind of gives an overview of what our analysis does. We look at 10 risk measures in the 7 different categories, and we monitor that throughout the year, as Megan stated. So this is our current year's analysis, key takeaways, and this page also talks about our process and our available resources, and then we will go into your more detailed results in a minute. We do have a more detailed About tab up on the web page that if you want to know where this report comes from, what we look at, why we look at it, the About tab at the top there is where you'll want to go. So this top portion of the page provides our key takeaways of this year's analysis. For this year, that includes increases in the number of overall highest risk and the districts approaching the highest risk category, as well as an increase in the number of schools at risk for 7 of the 10 measures compared to our previous year's analysis. After that, if you could scroll down. So this is the list of current highest risk districts and the districts approaching a highest risk category. There's an expandable list of each district's high risk measures, and then there's a map showing each district's location. We also include a downloadable summary that contains the list of high risk measures for all the highest risk districts and the districts approaching the highest category, and a brief description of each of the measures on that blue button there that says download summary. Next is a new section we added this year, which shows the 1-year change in the number of districts at high risk for each individual measure compared to last year's analysis, to help illustrate the overall increase in risk we saw in this year's results. We include some overall information about why we do this analysis next and why it's important for you to monitor financial risk. After that, we include the 7 categories briefly described here that the 10 financial measures fall within. We'll talk about each of these in more detail later as we go through your individual district's results. As Megan mentioned, we provided your CFO with the financial risk action plan guidance, which is over in this right-hand bottom box, and the template, and it's available here for all districts. We do require the highest risk districts to submit a completed action plan to us, and then the plan is posted on the district's page of the analysis site. Next on this page is a graphic of our annual process of how we gather data, we analyze the changes, and then we communicate with the highest risk districts, and then we annually issue this report. At the bottom of this overview page, we provide a data file in Excel, which contains the January 2026 data, the analysis results, and other information presented on the state and district results pages for all districts, including identifying the highest risk districts. So that's the overview page. The next tab at the top is the state results page. So I just want to touch on this quickly before we go to the district results. This page provides you an overview of our financial risk analysis results at the statewide level. It can also be filtered by county or legislative district. For example, you could pick Pima County to see all the districts in your county and which measures they are high risk for. This top section, or the top section we were just looking at, is a high-level presentation of those number of districts at high risk for those measures. This bottom section here is providing you detailed information on which districts are at high risk for each measure. This information can also be filtered multiple ways and sorted to make it easier for you to see the results you want. For example, you could click on budget limit reserve, operating budget, and see the districts that are high risk for that, as well as we indicate which of the highest risk districts are at high risk for those measures. So next we're going to go over to the district results. So at the top here, there's a navigation bar. You can either navigate through the districts or you can type in at the top to get to Tucson. And as you can see at the top, we've indicated that it's among the highest risk districts. For high-risk districts, we do include a narrative summary there of the risks identified in the individual measures. And then at the bottom there is the district-provided financial risk action plan that addresses the district's financial risks identified in these measures below. The individual measures typically have an analysis and data section with your district's information. We're going to talk now about each of the measures, what it is, and your district's specific results. More detailed information for each of the measures is available on the Measures tab. There is a link right there at the top of the measures, or there's a link at the very top of the page. And that way you can access the more detailed information about how we calculate the risk for these different measures, what the measure means, why it's important, and as well as what data source we use. So if you wanted to know more about each of the measures specifically, that's where you'll want to go. So your district has 6 high-risk measures leading to your overall highest risk designation. So the first measure we're going to look at is the change in weighted student count. So this shows a district's change in Group A weighted student count over a 1-year and 4-year period as of December 2025. We obtained the weighted student counts from Arizona Department of Education reports. The student count decreases generally results in decreases in available revenues. So if a district is experiencing continued substantial student count decreases and does not adjust its spending accordingly, it could exceed its statutorily prescribed budget limit. We look at both a 1-year and 4-year change because both long-term declines and a single-year substantial decrease can have a major effect on the district's budget. We assign varying points for both the 1-year and 4-year change percentages, then apply a multiplier to the 4-year decline risk points for districts with consecutive year-over-year declines. This helps capture the risk associated with persistent downward trends in weighted student counts. Districts can receive up to 5 risk points for this measure, and districts with 3 or more risk points are considered high risk for this measure. If you want to see the specific risk point thresholds and an example calculation, you can go to that measures page that I referred to earlier for the detailed table that shows you by size and by decrease what the points are. So since Tucson USD is considered a large size district and has a 1-year decline of 3.68%, you go back to the analysis, sorry. So the 3.68% for the 1-year change, that was assigned a maximum of the 1 risk point for that 1-year decline. Next, the 4-year decline was 8.99%, resulting in 2 risk points for the 4-year decline. And then if you look at the data tab, you can see that the weighted student count has declined every year over the last 5 years, and therefore the district received the maximum multiplier of 2 points. So in total, the district received the maximum 5 points for this measure, and therefore is high risk for this measure. This weighted student count measure is one of the more predictive measures in our analysis. District boards and management really need to monitor this information to understand when you need to adjust spending based on the resources you have available. There are some districts that use even more predictive measures, and you may use some of these already, like surveys or demographers, to try and understand and plan for where your enrollment will be in future years to help drive spending decisions. As for the current year information, ADE issues monthly student count and funding reports that the district should monitor throughout the year. ADE will issue the district's final recalculated student counts after the end of the fiscal year. So that's something you could be monitoring monthly. Next, I'll turn it over to Megan.
Okay. Up next, we'll look at two different measures that assess a district's budget limit reserves and its spending within budget limits. For a little background on what these budget limits are, every Arizona school district annually adopts a statutorily prescribed maintenance and operation and unrestricted capital outlay fund budget limit. Those two main district fund budget limits are what we analyze in the operating and capital budget limit reserve measures. Those limits are in part, as Amanda described, based on the district's student counts that we just described in the previous measure. So as those student counts go down, the district's budget limit may be decreasing as well. This year, we added some new pieces of data to this measure card. Amanda, if you could go to the data part of it, to help provide some additional context around district's reserve amounts. Those new pieces of data are each year's budget limit, including the current year's budget limit as of today for fiscal year 2026. Actually, I shouldn't say as of today, as of December, and the total expenditure amounts for the last 5 years. So to give you a little bit of perspective of what the budget limit has been doing over time as those student counts change and how spending is changing along with it, and then how that is then affecting the reserve amounts for each of those measures. So in October, after the end of each fiscal year, ADE compares the district's budget limit to its reported expenditures, and any unspent operating or capital budget limit capacity is available to then carry forward to future years. So that is your reserve balance amount, unspent budget limit capacity that's moving forward. So for this measure, we identify districts as high risk if they have either overspent their budget limit or if the district's budget limit reserves have substantially decreased. Similar to the weighted student count measure, we look at those decreases on both a 1 and 4 year change to see what it's doing both in the short term and in the long term. Your district is at high risk for the operating budget reserve measure since it reduced its reserves by 25.18% in fiscal year 25. Additionally, when looking at the capital budget limit reserve measure, that reserve amount decreased by 68.22% in fiscal year 25 and 82.99% over that 4 year change, so since fiscal year 2021. That makes both the 1 year and the 4 year change a high risk identifier for that capital budget limit reserve measure, where for the operating reserve measure, only that 1 year change is what we were identifying as high risk, since as you can see there, the 4 year change, that reserve amount is actually up a little bit from where you were in fiscal year 21. Those declining reserves indicate that higher financial risk for a few reasons. One, the district now has less resources available going into the next year, and thus with the declining student count and current year funding, every time you're dipping into those reserves, you're basically getting rid of one-time money. So those monies are not coming back the next year because they're basically what you've had in your savings. So as I already mentioned, the 4 year change is up a little bit in your operating reserve amount. We do describe a little bit in the summary that we have. And Mr. Hernandez, I believe, acknowledged in the corrective action plan that part of that increase we see over time. I mean, if you wouldn't mind going to the data on budget reserve, actually. So you can see some of the changes in there in the reserve amount, that the amounts were actually increasing in your operating reserve from 21 through 23. and then it started to decline again there. Some of that increase can be attributed to additional COVID-19 monies that were available to all districts during that time frame. It was something kind of common. We saw across many districts that received those monies, they were able to build up a little bit of reserves over that time because those monies did have very wide allowable uses. And so some districts were able to use those and build up some reserves at that time that those monies were available. So that's why part of why you're seeing that increase, and then it's starting to decline again for fiscal years 24 and 25. Similar to the student count reports that Amanda talked about, ADE provides monthly budget limit calculation reports for the current year, since those budget limits are changing throughout the year with your weighted student count numbers. So we recommend that district management and boards monitor those reports similar to the weighted student count reports to just stay up to date on what's happening and changing throughout the year for you. So just to talk a little bit through the numbers that we can see here, the total operating budget limit column specifically, you can see that that in particular is going down from 25 to 26. But one of the reasons we put both the budget limit and the expenditure amounts in there for users to see is you can kind of then compare. So what were you spending last year? What is your budget limit this year? And are our districts in a situation where they need to make immediate action to be decreasing those expenditures to stay within the current year budget limit? Tucson right now is at a space where you still have a limit that was above what you were spending last year, but we still recommend districts in this risk scenario take a look at those to see if any changes are needed. Just because continually dipping into those reserves, you would get to a point where they obviously run out. And then just a little bit on the capital reserve and pointing out the similar decreases from 25 to 26 in budget limit there, related to likely the student count change. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Amanda for the next 3 general fund measures, and then I'll just come up one last time to go over the last couple pieces of information.
All right, I'm going to go over the 3 financial position measures, so they're all there in a row. So the 2 budget limit reserve measures are looking at how much the district is legally allowed to spend in your 2 main funds, your maintenance and operation, your unrestricted capital outlay funds. These next 3 measures focus on your general fund financial position, which analyzes components of a district's primary operating funds revenues, expenditures, and ending balances to identify potential risk related to general fund resources. Although each of these measures looks at similar financial data, they focus on different relationships in that data. The general fund measures results often relate to the operating budget limit reserve measure, since the maintenance and operation fund is the main component of every district's general fund. The rest of the general fund amount is any funds that are designated as a general fund in your district's financial statements or unaudited annual financial report. We obtain the general fund amounts from the district's fiscal year 24 audited financial statements, and then the fiscal year 25 unaudited annual financial report, or AFR, that was submitted to ADE. To avoid distorting the measure ratios, they should not be compared to each other, so it's important to pay attention to the data sources and the year. So even though the district is not high risk for the operating reserve measure, we're still going to quickly discuss how the district can use this information. This operating reserve ratio shows the percent of general fund monies held in reserve for future spending, or your fund balance, and compares it to total spending from the prior year. A negative operating reserve ratio indicates a negative fund balance, which means the district must use monies received in the following year to cover prior year spending. All districts with a negative operating reserve ratio in either of the most recent 2 years were considered high risk for this measure. But as I said, you're not high risk for this measure. The next financial position measure is operating margin ratio. That shows the percent of district general fund revenues not spent in the year received for each of the most recent 2 years. A negative ratio indicates the district spent more money than it received for the year and spent some monies from its previous year's reserve. While we could consider all districts with a negative reserve at higher risk for this measure, we only identify risk for districts with negative operating margin and less than 2 months of general fund expenditures in reserves at the end of the most recent fiscal year. Since a district with low operating reserves exposes itself to higher financial risk each time its spending exceeds its revenues. So the district is considered high risk for this due to your fiscal year 24 and 25 general fund spending exceeding revenues by the 2.93% in 24 and the 9.27% in fiscal year 25. And you only have over 1 month of general fund expenditures and reserves at the end of fiscal year 25. If we look at the data tab here, you can see that for both years, the district had more expenditures than revenues, which aligns with the downward trend in its budget limits as well. The last measure on financial position is the change in fund balance. This shows the 1-year percentage change for each of the most recent 2 years in a district's general fund balance. Declining fund balances or negative fund balance in the most recent year indicate higher financial risk as less resources remain available for current and future needs. As you can see on this measure, the district's general fund balance has decreased by 42.25% from fiscal year 24 to 25. And the data tab shows a decrease of over 28 million from 24 to 25. Since the district's change in fund balance is a decrease of greater than the 25% threshold, this measure is high risk. Now I'll pass it to Megan to wrap us up.
Okay. The final measure, as Amanda said, that I'm going to talk about today is titled Capital Monies that are Redirected to Operations. In that statutory state funding formula that I talked about earlier, there's 2 basic components, one that's intended for operating, one that's intended for capital, but districts are allowed to transfer those monies between each other, basically. So transfer intended capital monies to operating and vice versa, transfer operating monies to capital as they see fit. However, we do still look at this as a risk measure to see if districts are having to continually rely on that intended capital funding to support their operating expenses. So while districts can choose this, as I said, they may be at higher risk if they are putting off necessary operational cuts and using that capital monies to basically help support it. So similar to our other measures, we look at it from multiple angles. We look at just the amount that was transferred in the current year, and then also what the district has done on a 5-year average. So looking at the 45.15% in the current year, and then the district has about a 19.65% average that it has transferred over the 5 years. So if we look at the data, that's not necessarily, it's not that the district has been transferring each of those 5 years. The district started making those transfers in fiscal year 24 and then progressed that in 25 to a higher amount and again for 26. So even though there was none in 22 and 23, it's giving that little bit of a higher 5-year average amount. And I should just mention our threshold that we use for risk on this measure is 25% of the capital monies to operations. So the district is at risk for the current year transfer amount. So just to mention really quick, the other 2 measures that are right next there are not ones that apply to the district currently. Small school budget limit adjustment is something we look at in particular for very small schools, and then frozen tax rate is not something that applies to your district at this moment. And finally, the 10th measure that we use is receivership. Your district is not currently in receivership right now. There are only 2 districts that are operating under a state-appointed receiver. Last piece of information I just want to be sure to point out to you, we have a section where we show less common revenues that districts receive for fiscal year 25. This is just to provide a little bit of more contextual information for users to understand when one district may have some additional monies that not all districts receive. So just to give a little bit of extra information to consider when thinking about the district's risk measure results that we show. So for Tucson Unified School District, we show here that the district receives $63 million in desegregation monies and about $1.2 million in federal impact aid. And then just at the very bottom there, to be a little bit more comparable across districts of varying size, we provide the total less common revenues per student. Since we're gonna have very varying amounts with the different size districts we have in our state. So with that, I just want to make a couple of concluding marks to emphasize really the four most important pieces of information that we would like members to take away today. The first is the district's declining student enrollment, and that it does appear to be declining substantially, and that the board should be considering how that affects its budget decisions going forward. Second is the district's substantial decline in budgetary reserves in fiscal year 25, along with those declining student counts, should be another major factor in the district's decisions in the current year and when planning for fiscal year 27 budgets. Third is the district's spending exceeding its revenues. As Amanda mentioned, that kind of goes hand in hand with the budget reserves decreasing, considering those in your budget decisions. And then finally, although the district has not exceeded its statutorily prescribed budget limit or its cash resources, it should be putting an action plan in place to help ensure that that does not happen in the future. So that concludes our presentation that we had today. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Trout. Are we getting a presentation from Ricky? Should we do that one first, or we answer questions first? What is going to be the best way to?
Having Mr. Hernandez go over the district's proposed action plan will kind of help you see what's coming down the pike, what we propose, and then, of course, we can go from questions from there.
Governing Board, is that okay? All right, so Mr. Hernandez, go ahead and do your presentation, and we'll be able to ask any questions or make any comments after that.
Jean, can you put up the action plan for me, please? So as the staff from the Auditor General's office mentioned, we were required, because we are among the highest financial risk school districts, we were required to provide an action plan to the Auditor General. It is available for download on our district page at the Auditor General's website. And I won't go through like in detail because there is a lot of information, but we are required to provide essentially what were the identified causes for each one of the 6 risk areas that were identified by the Auditor General. And so, with our weighted student count, as kind of we scroll down, it's a lot of things that we've already talked about, right? The impact of the empowerment scholarships, the declining birth rates in the county and the state. Obviously, the mobility within the county, but also, as was presented earlier, the mobility, unfortunately, of our families due to a lot of the kind of the political atmosphere that's happening as it relates to immigration. Charter schools continue to be a competitor with us, right? We continue to lose students, outside of the high school grades to charter schools, and we probably have the highest number of charter schools within the boundary of any other school district in Arizona. So, Gene, if you keep going to the next page. So what are our mitigating actions? A lot of these things we've implemented already, so some of these things are already taking place. So some of these will yield results as we conclude FY26 and then we go into 27. So the board approved hiring an external consultant, CASA K-12, that is working with our families, with our student placement and enrollment department to reconnect these families back to the school district. This is a performance-based contract, and you've received updates in regards to that. Media campaigns, obviously we're taking the message out on the road to the community, to our families, targeting specific schools and communities to bring those kids back into the district. Expanding transportation, right? This is the first year that we essentially have universal transportation on all of our school buses across the district, and essentially transporting kids that go beyond the boundary of the district to bring them from neighboring districts. And the expansion of K-6 models, which, as I've presented to you in the past, have been popular in retaining particularly students in the 6th grade, right? So as they transition from 5th to 6th to a traditional middle school, those 6th graders staying at those elementary schools have actually yielded a higher rate of return because those kids are staying with us and then they're transitioning to our TUSD middle schools. We've provided a summary of the financial impact thus far. As we go into the future, we will continue to update that financial impact of those mitigating actions. So as you keep going, Jean, to the next page.
Mr. Hernandez, I think some of them are easier than
Yeah.
others, right? Like the immediate
Right.
cessation of transferring capital dollars over to the operations budget.
Yeah, and some of these things, you know, and I'll just kind of go through them, you know, because I spent a lot of time with the Auditor General's team kind of going through that. But, you know, we are, which I will talk about in my presentation later, we are going to stop moving dollars from capital to operations. That is something that we started because we were fortunate of having a bond passed in 2023. So we took advantage of the ability to transfer a lot of these capital costs to the bond program. The operating limit reserves, I mean, as was presented to you, we've been using a lot of one-time monies to do ongoing things, but also we've got increasing expenses that have not been covered by things like, you know, a 2% inflation factor from the state. And so things like salaries we've talked about, you know, we've provided substantial amounts of increases to all our staff across the district. The cost of benefits, which we will talk about, you know, in the near future for next school year, it continues to be a market issue. Utilities, we are not exempt from the cost of utilities. We are charged the same amount of money that Costco is charged for utilities. So we can, you know, these are operating expenses that continue to move up, and our dollars are just not catching up to those expenses. So we've been using a lot of those first-time dollars. The DSEC budget deficit, as we go into the next year, we will actually be able to wipe away the DSEC budget deficit. So we will stop using one-time dollars to wipe away the deficit that the DSEC budget unfortunately has been taking, and that the board has approved action to mitigate. There's, you know, low people funding. There's a lot of these aspects that we have in here, the reliance on one-time dollars, those transfers from district additional assistance or capital to M&O, things that we've already either stopped or we will now bring recommendations to continue to mitigate. These are topics that we've discussed in prior presentations to you and the community. And, you know, and ultimately, you know, it is your decision for you to kind of give us direction based on our recommendations. So there are additional mitigating actions. Obviously, one of the most significant ones is having an override in place, but the override is not there to solve our deficit, right? The override is there to provide us support and the runway that we need in order to actually address the deficit the right way. We implemented a zero-based budgeting approach in DSEG. We implemented department budget cuts last year. We'll talk about department budget cuts for next school year. We started a hiring freeze. We closed positions. So we've done a lot of these things already that have actually already done and produced savings for the district. And there will be additional cost reductions that will go beyond fiscal year 27, which I will talk in detail during my presentation. We're also talking about energy efficiency and building optimization, right? The investment grade audit. At the next meeting, Dr. Carter and her team will talk about the investment grade audit, and some of those dollars are actually starting to come through. The upgrades in air conditioning have produced dollars back to the district, and so those things will take place. The technical components about the reapportionment, I won't go too much into detail, but essentially making sure that when we're collecting revenues from property taxes and state aid, that they're deposited into the right amounts in the M&O and the capital fund. This is something that we changed a couple of years ago and didn't re-update. This has actually already been fixed. We've already been able to increase our fund balance by $16 million just by correcting the right apportionment. So I won't go into the mitigating. You know, you've seen the financial impact of all of these mitigating actions, some of which I will talk about later on this evening. And then there's one more page, Gene. And then the capital limit reserve and the capital monies, that has to do with that $10 million shift, right? So we've lowered our limit reserve and capital budget because we've been moving $10 million from capital to M&O, which we will begin reversing in the 26-27 school year. So that reserve by itself will begin to kind of soften as we start dedicating more actual capital dollars for capital expenditures versus actual operating expenses. And we will, my colleague, Juve Lopez, he and I will bring to you a capital improvement plan that will focus on long-term capital needs beyond the bond, that we can now rededicate a lot of these $7 million and then $3 million in 2 years into actual capital. And then certainly, as you've seen on the agenda, leveraging building renewal grants, right? Focusing on leveraging the responsibility of the state on some of these capital responsibilities that unfortunately have not bared out for a long time, but we continue to leverage as part of our capital. So that was a really quick kind of summary on it. Feel free to read it at your leisure. If you have questions, please let us know.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. And what were the names of our presenters from the Auditor General Office again?
My name is Megan Heeger and Amanda
Megan.
Nguyen.
And what's the other one, I'm sorry?
Amanda Nguyen.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Governing board members, questions, comments, feedback? Ms. Shaw, and then Mr. Romero?
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. Did we have a meeting once, like 2 years ago?
I believe
or
so,
something?
yes.
Okay, nice to see you
Nice to
again.
see you as well.
Sorry that it's under these circumstances. Let's see, so when was the last time that TUSD was labeled high risk?
So I believe that TUSD was in the highest risk group in our first year's analysis, so that would have been December 2020. They did come out of the highest risk group in the next year, and this is the first time since then of moving back into the highest risk group.
Okay, and was it like 6 markers like it is now? Or
You know, I don't have that information on me directly, but I could absolutely go back and find what the specific high-risk measures were at that time. Going off of memory, I do believe some of it did relate to a frozen tax rate that was in place at that time, that I believe became unfrozen in the final year. But then again, some of these weighted student count measures and likely also the general fund as well. As I said, I am happy to find out what the specifics were and send them to you all if you would like them.
Okay, that would be helpful, thank
Sure.
you. And so, in your opinion, are the remedies in the corrective action plan suggested by our CFO enough to get us out of the high-risk category?
I don't think that I can answer that. This is really an informational report that we put together. We're pulling together the data and showing you what it is. I believe the district's administration and board is probably in the best place to identify where you anticipate you're going to be, because a lot of this is predictive. Thinking about where you're going, we're showing you what's happened. And then it's then in the district's hands to make those decisions of what you think is best to help bring you out of that high-risk group.
And what is the timeline typically for districts to, submit their plan and then to get out of the risk?
I don't know if I could say that there is a standard. It's going to really vary depending on each district's circumstances. So what the indicators are for a particular district and how severe the risk is going to depend on how long it takes, as well as considering what level of actions the district takes. But there is no current standard. There's no requirement that the district come out of high risk at any time frame. We're using this as an informational report to help you understand the trajectory that the district is currently in and that something needs to happen to kind of change that.
Right. I guess my line of questioning is leading to from getting this high risk label and then, God forbid, we go into receivership. What is typically for those districts who are currently in receivership, how long were they high risk? What were the indicators for them, and how can we avoid that?
Well, the two current highest risk districts, Antelope and Isaac Elementary School District. Isaac Elementary School District in particular was in our highest risk group throughout the entire time that we've been presenting it. So starting in December 2020, and then now with this year's results, the district was placed into receivership last January, and that was specifically as a result of overspending that the district incurred. Antelope Unified School District, I believe, has been in the highest risk group for about 3 years. And they as well are in receivership related to budgetary overspending. That is one of the most specific reasons that districts generally end up in receivership is for exceeding their budget. There's a specific provision in the statute regarding receivership that talks about that as a trigger, basically, for what needs to be considered when a district needs to be considered for receivership.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Romero?
So on this talks about January assessment states TUSD is now at high risk of not being able to operate within available budget and cash resources. When did the district cross from elevated risk into high risk, and specifically what had changed?
I believe that was with the most recent information became available in November, is when the Department of Education publishes its budget reserve calculations from the prior year. So they take the district's October annual financial report that's been prepared and submitted, compared it to the district's budget limit for that year, and that's when we saw the most increase in the risk for the district, having that most recent year's results available.
Okay. The report states general fund reserve would cover just over 1 month of expenditures. In your experience, how unusual or dangerous is it for the district of TUSD size to be in that situation?
We base our risk threshold for that on the Government Finance Organization Association's recommendations that districts maintain at least 2 months of general fund reserves. So that's why we use the overall decline. So if a district's spending more than it receives, and then we also use that 2 month of reserve as a measure for risk for districts. So are they both spending more than they receive, and do they have less than that recommended 2 months of reserves in place? I don't think I could give you a good statement right now on how unusual that is, but we do have our data file available where you can see exactly how much each district in the state has in reserves if you wanted to then compare where Tucson stands amongst the rest of the 207 districts in our analysis.
Okay. And then I think, because of our override, that has kind of helped us to try to fix this 21 million, 25 million where we're at. So we're very fortunate for the voters to do that for us. Now, despite spending reductions, 2025 still shows negative general fund operating margins and 42% reductions in fund balance. Is this still a traditional problem, or is this a structural deficit?
Are you asking about the idea of spending more monies than have been received?
Mm-hmm.
So I think in this case in particular, Mr. Hernandez touched on it a little bit, that one of the contributing factors for your district was a misallocation of some revenues in, I believe it was the current year, most recent year, in fiscal year 25, that related to the district's transfer of capital monies to operations and whether or not the cash then followed in the appropriate fund. This is based on Mr. Hernandez's analysis of it and what he's described, so we can't necessarily see that for ourselves, but that did contribute to some of that general fund risk. But then again, there still goes along with the declines we're seeing in the operating and capital budget limit reserves, which does indicate the district's spending more than it received in those years. And so that's just a basic function of having costs that exceed the revenues that come in.
Our capital reserves declined 83% since 21 and 68% in 2025 alone. What point do we move from risk to potential failing?
Again, I don't know if I can necessarily answer that question right now because it's up to what the district's decisions have been made in this current year. So we have the budget limits for the current year that we're showing you in there. The district would then need to look at what it's planning to spend in this current year. Is there an estimate of what you're going to be carrying forward at the end of this year? And then maybe projecting out those expenditures going forward of how long the district can sustain spending these reserve amounts before it gets to a point where no reserves are any longer available.
Just a few more, thank you. We're talking about, I guess enrollment, action plan sites, enrollment stabilization efforts, producing several million. And this might even be a Ricky question. Are these gains sustainable? Are these just going to be one-time recoveries? I know we talked about ESA and, are we losing kids to charters and things of that nature? Is our realistic enrollment outlook over the next 3 years, I guess, realistic in our action plan?
I was going to say, I think that's a better question
Yeah.
for Mr. Hernandez or Mr. Trujillo.
what our action plan doesn't state, because we know it's a very delicate topic and we know that people have various emotions and opinions about the item, but at some point in the future, not today, not this year, maybe not even next year, at some point, the Tucson Unified Community needs to reckon with its geographical layout. The biggest boundary for us right now is the amount of sites that we operate. To give you an example, Mesa does about 53,000 students, and they do that with around 54, 55 campuses. So we're built geographically like it's still 1996. And we know that that's a tough issue. I mean, I just experienced that recently. I found out that my childhood elementary school in Peoria is going to be closing, and a wave of emotion and nostalgia just overtook me, thinking about my time there, and I understand how emotional that the item could be. But that's actually a longer term answer in terms of how we deal with this in the long term, in terms of reimagining a Tucson Unified School District that is better equipped to meet the needs of the students that we have now, as well as the enrollment patterns that we see that are starting to drift and starting to shift towards the west and towards the southwest. So don't want to alarm anybody. That's why we didn't want to put a bunch of stuff in writing, but I think at some point in the future, that conversation probably needs to happen.
Yeah, and again, I'm grateful that you guys are coming here, because I think we have to realize a reality on a lot of these types of things. There's issues that we have with school enrollment. Where were we when we had to close a bunch of schools last time or reconfigure? And we have to have these conversations. We have to be willing to look at, because we're not gaining any money, and I know a while back Ricky had mentioned for Santa Rita, for example, it costs us $3 million to keep it open. We're only getting $1 million back to help offset those costs. We're losing $2 million. How soon are we going to stop this bleeding? This is something that's brought on up that the public needs to know where we are in a financial aspect. We've got a great audit committee that's not able to do its duties as much as they should be. And I know there was one of these things that came on up, and I had it in a question here, that early warning metrics, what could have happened, or how maybe could the audit committee, our audit committee that's supposed to be here for the board, how could they give us a quarterly reporting so that no board member up here can later claim surprise that we weren't notified of the potential of this high risk? Get a status report. What was the word here was omission, or silence is omission is also considered a lie. What have we not also been seeing on some of these things? And I understand we want to kick the can down the road and not look at closures of schools, reconfigurations, sacred cows, but we have to realistically need to do that because our numbers are not going up. You have us down for the 1 year, was it 3.5, 3.68 down in weighted students with a potential of 8.99% in 4 years, 9%. How are we going to maintain the staff, the positions that we have of our staff, keep these schools open with this declining enrollment unless we have some other type of plan? I know it's not a popular topic, but it's something we need to talk about because, like I said, I don't know how else we're going to get out of this high risk. We can move things around. I know we're supposed to come up with $10 million out this next year, another 10 million, another 10 million these next 3 years, or 13, whatever it is to come up to 25 million to just right size. This override is just giving us a small runway to fix our financial problems. I think the board has to realize we got to stop writing checks that we don't have in our bank account. And that was what number 3, district spending beyond our means, I think is what you had mentioned, Megan, on that. Good to have an action plan in place. How are we going to be held accountable to that action plan so that we can actually do some of these things? I have a lot of other questions, but knowing kind of what you've been giving me, you have a certain realm that you can answer some of these questions on. I think some of them are a little bit higher than that. But again, I extremely thank you for diving in, doing this, making us aware of that, and putting us on notice that TUSD needs to look at their financial situation, and we need to do a better job with the governing board. Thank you.
Ms. Luna Rose, you move your microphone, so I'm assuming you have something to say?
I did, thank you, Dr. Shaw. Hi, thank you so much for coming, I'm assuming coming down from Phoenix this
Yes, we
evening?
did.
Okay. So we try not to keep you too long so you can make it up at a decent hour.
Appreciate it.
But I want to ask, what role should a board play in supporting a district to move out of financial risk? Because to be fair to Mr. Hernandez and his team, he has come to us over and over that there's a deficit. And we, as a board, and we, take account of the votes that we make. Part of that is why I think we have moved into this high risk. So what can we do as a board to support Mr. Hernandez in the future to pull us out of this?
Well, the board is the one with the primary responsibility for making those budget and the finance-related decisions, which is one of the biggest reasons why we, in this risk analysis, want to get in front of each and every one of the boards that we've identified as highest risk to help you all understand the results that we're seeing. So the boards is the one who's making the final decisions on budgets and expenditure amounts. I know you likely have to rely on your finance team for information and recommendations, but ultimately the board makes most, if not all, of those decisions.
Thank you.
Ms. Exter, did you move your microphone?
No, but
Okay.
I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
I just feel as a governing board, we've been notified about our financials, and we keep talking about here about closing schools, consolidation, sacred cows, all of these things, but I have yet to hear from my governing board members what their recommendations are. So if we're serious about this, I think we need to have a clear and concise discussion about what that looks like. And speaking of school closures, I would like to know how much the district did save from the last round of school closures. If I can get that information at a later date, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. I'll say a couple of things, and thank you for coming down here for your presentation. I don't have any questions, and I'll just want to comment on a couple of things that Mr. Romero said. Look, all this information presented tonight is not new information. Our weighted student count, we address this every time we talk about 40th day, 100th day enrollment. That's not any new information. The reserves change over the years. When we have the 5-year projections, we see that with every major financial decision we make as a district, as a governing board, and we see the consequences on what this means for our reserves. And so we went into every decision over the last couple of years knowing that we have a reserve. We were able to accumulate a reserve of about $40 million, and that's what's presented here in the audit website as well. And the question is, do we just keep this in savings for savings sakes, or do we actually spend it on programs and services for our students and make sure that we can pay our staff a more livable wage with inflation what it was? And we decided that on the latter approach, and we went into that with very open eyes. So to say that we need an audit committee or someone to tell us this information, like this is information that we are well aware of in every budget discussion over the last couple of years, and to say that we write checks that we don't have in our bank account, that is 100% not at all what we're doing. And that's really disingenuous to say that we're doing that, and it really feeds into the negativity. We have $40 million in reserve, or had $40 million in reserves. And again, that came from vacancy savings and financial stewardships and decisions we made during the pandemic years, which was helped with the ESSER funds that we had. And we made very conscious decisions on how to spend those reserves. Again, we're not here to have dividends for shareholders. We are a public body. Our shareholders are our public and our students. And we spend that money on our students year after year. And yes, I agree that we have a lot of difficult decisions to make, because with our enrollment loss being one thing, but even more important than our enrollment loss is the massive cuts to our budget from the state government when they think 1 or 2% of an inflationary increase will make up for an 8% inflationary rate during the last couple of years, that is a massive budget cut from the state government. And so we are dealing with not just an enrollment loss, but state legislatures year after year that are trying to get rid of public education as their main end goal. And they're doing that by nickel and diming and death by 1,000 cuts with their budget cuts. And so we were very conscious of the decisions to work on our reserves, and I understand that a lot of the decision making is a high risk going into like the reserves going down. And we don't make any apologies on that. We used our reserve, we used the $40 million of savings that we had to pay our teachers and staff, to keep positions, to keep services for our students active. And thanks to the override, we're able to maintain some of these positions and expand some of these positions that are making a difference for our students and families. And we are going to be making budget cuts to make sure that we are more living within our means, but we never wrote one check that we didn't have in the bank account. That is completely not characterizing the situation at all accurately. And so I want to make sure that the public knows what we're doing and what we're not doing in this situation.
Well, I disagree on you on that one. First of all, to keep blaming the Arizona legislature for us not being successful, what are we doing here in our own backyard, first of all? What are we going to do to fix this problem? This is our problem, not the Arizona State Legislature. Yes, if they gave us more money, great. Whatever, but that's not the situation. We're not going to be getting that. Unless you want to run for state legislator and change stuff up over there, then you have that podium. What are we going to do here as a district in TUSD? You want to talk about checks. We made votes for $100 million worth of electric buses. We don't have a checkbook to cover that amount. There's other things that we've done. We had Davis Romero that we decided to take money that was going in towards what was in a 1010 to take that money going over there. If you go look at any of the bond types of things, we're going to run out of money in our bond things because we have so many projects that are way over budget. We keep spending money, and now we're going to run out of money for these other bond projects later on down the line. So this isn't a false statement. It's true. It's what's happening. It might not be right now. It's coming happening down the line. To say that it's not true, that we're just, like I said, one of the times I agreed with Natalie on here was when we talked about Davis Romero being financially responsible on some of those types of things. Yes, let's give them good things. Let them give them an opportunity to succeed and thrive and things of that nature. But at what expense are we going to do for the later schools later on down the line that aren't going to be getting some of that money? Again, we can agree to disagree on that one. We can continue to blame the Arizona legislature, or we can sit up here and make tough decisions as a board and see what we can do and increase our enrollment, help our students, increase their safety, do what we can for our teachers that put in so much work and effort, as well as our principals and staff and administration, all of those that do. We're here to work together, but at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be here with the district. We're going to have to downsize. And we just need to start thinking about those things. And again, I appreciate your feedback on that. I'm just giving you mine. Thank you, Dr. Shaw.
All right, thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move back in the agenda to, I believe, let me get back to the right page, 7.1, approval to appoint new members to serve on the Tucson Unified School District Budget Advisory Committee. And I will turn it over to Ms. Luna Rose, our board liaison for the Budget Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. So the Budget Advisory Committee has met several times in the last couple of weeks to review applications and talk about what kind of candidates they would like to see on the committee. Right now, there are 3 current vacancies, and we have an upcoming vacancy. Correct, Ms. Barboa? We do? That's right. The Budget Advisory Committee, I do want to state, I know I don't see any of the Budget Advisory Committee members tonight, but I would like to acknowledge Montserrat Caballero, she's the chair, Jason Free, Dr. Norma Gonzalez, Dana Islas, Taylor Pacheco, who's the vice chair, Dr. Albert Siqueiros, who is resigning at the end of the month, William Solon, Dr. Teresa Toro, and Zinnia Vadel for all their work on this committee. Are they on?
They should be getting on. They're not on.
Oh, okay.
But they'll be.
Well, my
At some point.
apologies at some
No.
point, okay. But I wanted to thank them. It's a mix of parents, community members, and teachers, staff, who are concerned about what's happening in the district, how the money's being spent, and their recommendations to the board and what they would like, working on what the recommendations that the board brings to them. So I just wanted to acknowledge their work, because we have spent, I'd say, hours on doing some of this stuff. So are we, I don't want to, is
So we
anybody
have two
on?
sections of our agenda that have budget
they might
advisory
be on the
committee.
later
Oh, for the
one,
next one, okay.
Yes.
All right,
Okay,
so
the second one.
we, like I said, there's 4 openings, and we, as a board, have decided to push forward Krista Millay, who is a parent and a community member, and Carissa Shepard, who's also a community member. So,
So moved.
thank you.
I'll second.
All right. Do you want me to call it? So moved by Ms. Shaw and seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. If we can let them know as soon as possible. And to the other applicants, we do really appreciate your time. We know it's a little bit of a process, but we really wanted to see community members and to make it more of a balanced BAC. So, but it is open, and as Ms. Shaw alluded to before, committee's always looking for fresh voices, so please go to our website and go to the governing board page, and you can look at our committees and find one that you might want to apply for, whether it's the BAC or the bond oversight or the alternative ed or the audit committee. We really appreciate your service.
Thank you, Ms. Luna Rose. I'll add, just for feedback for the Budget Advisory Committee, the reason that we did not, that I didn't want to move forward other applicants for a couple of reasons. We already have a high school principal involved with the Budget Advisory Committee, and we thought if we're going to have another administrator that's coming from the K-8 environment, so we can get different perspectives on this committee that is addressing issues related to all of our students. And for the other applicant, we already have representation from Catalina High School, and we'd love to have some other staff or other community members that can represent other parts of the district as well. So when you go back to the Budget Advisory Committee, Ms. Luna Rose, as our board liaison, you can give back that feedback as we're vetting future candidates.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shaw.
All right, we'll move on to 7.2, approval to procure goods and services for quarter 3 and quarter 4, fiscal year 25-26 bond project priorities. Dr. Trujillo?
President
Dr.
Shaw,
Carter.
Dr. Carter, welcome to the podium, and looks like we're going to be focusing on window security film, right?
Yes, good evening to the governing board president, Dr. Shaw, and governing board members. I'm here to present the approval to procure goods and services for quarter 3 and 4 bond projects. The Bond Oversight Committee approved the project requested and determined the priorities for implementation. The upcoming priority bond projects include the purchase of security window film phase 2. And this may seem familiar. You guys did on December 9th approve the security window film, but I had a correction that I needed to make with the school names. So this is really just to correct that. So if you look here, the amount is $83,498 for 13 schools for the security window film. And if we can go to the details, what was corrected was the school names. The amount was correct, but I wanted to definitely be transparent because we always match the dollars for the requisitions to the schools, and that's when I realized that it was a correction on my part. So these are the schools: C. Rose K-8, Dietz, Duffy, McGee, McCorkle, Pueblo Gardens, Roberts Naylor, Robbins, Utterback, Wakefield, Sabina High School, Saguaro High School, and Santa Rita. And of course, we do, if you can go down a little bit, the 20% contingency. So I am here to make that correction. So I would like to see if there could be a motion to approve the procurement of goods and services for quarter 3 and 4 bond projects, which consist of the security window film.
So Dr. Carter, we already approved this as just a correction with the school names.
Correct.
Okay, I'll second. Motion made by Ms. Ekstrom, seconded by myself. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, 5-0. Thank you very much. All right, we'll continue on to 7.3, consideration of extension of superintendent's contract. So I'll present this one. So we've had a chance in executive session to discuss the terms of the contract. Governing board member, any comments, questions, or motions before us?
I'll move the item.
I'll second. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right, item passes 3-2. Thank you, and Dr. Trujillo, I want to thank you for your, how many years of service now?
This will be entering into year 10.
Into year 10. And so this contract will extend your contract for an additional 3 years, and want to thank you for your continued leadership of our district.
I appreciate the faith and confidence of the school board, and this really celebratory item comes at a very difficult moment for our community, our state, and our nation. I'll only say that the challenges before our district are bigger than ever, whether it's our financials or the obligation to keep our students and our families safe, and then the continued pursuit of academic excellence and making sure that whatever budget reductions that we make do not compromise our services to students or the academic excellence in the classroom. So I'm excited to get started on that work.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. And then we'll go on to item 8.1, review and approval of Budget Advisory Committee priority area recommendations for implementation in the 26-27 school year.
So I will turn to our board liaison for options. Our Budget Advisory Committee member, Montserrat Caballero, we had an issue with the link that we were going to send her, didn't get to her. So the options are, we can either move it to February 10th, or if you feel comfortable as a liaison representing the discussion, we can have you along with Ricky go ahead and cover the item.
Well, I was just in contact right now with Montserrat, and she would prefer to be here in person.
Okay.
So if we can make a continuation for our February meeting, would appreciate it.
All right, so study action item, so we can just move this to the next meeting then?
Absolutely.
All right, any objection? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our last main item, item 9.2, fiscal year 26-27 budget development update. Dr. Trujillo.
As stated with the Auditor General's visit, and even before that visit, we've been pretty vocal about embarking on a multi-year plan to address what essentially is going to be around a $28 million deficit by 28-29. And taking our first bite out of that apple will be a $10 million budget reduction package that we will be putting before the board in the next few board meetings for consideration. We are not going to, we're not going to be able to tackle all $28 million of the deficit, which of course includes the expenditure gap that we've been talking about, as well as making sure that we're carving out enough budget savings for future compensation increases. But what the override allows us to do is to be able to have a little bit of a runway to be able to chunk down this deficit on a yearly basis. So year one, we're going to be targeting 10 million. For 26-27, I want to turn it over to Mr. Hernandez to kind of walk us through the progress report.
Good evening, board members again. So yeah, as Dr. Trujillo mentioned, this will dovetail into a lot of the action items that are part of that risk management plan that was presented at the Auditor General. So, you know, I won't go over all of this. I'll kind of skip to the, halfway down, but, because we're a high financial risk district, we've got a lot of work to do to try to move us forward and out of a structural deficit, right? So by fiscal year 30, our deficit is projected to be about $27 million total. So our operating margin on average across the next 5 years is a negative 8%. So that just means that we're spending 8% more than we are bringing in revenue, therefore relying on one-time spending, right? So this isn't about budget, this isn't about carry forward, this is just about dollars coming into the district and how much we're putting out. And so how much reliance are we using in one-time dollars that carry forward? So for the next fiscal year, our recommendation is to reduce permanently the non-DSEG portion of the M&O budget by $10 million. So that is currently the goal that we'd like to put out. So just to provide some background, so the 100th day came and went last week. We, from December of 25, when I provided the last budget revision until the 100th day this year, we lost an additional 74 ADM. So in May, we will bring you a budget reduction that includes an additional $386,000. That being said, the 100th day basically comes to about a 3.8% loss, which you saw in the Auditor General's report. Fortunately, I guess if there's a silver lining in all of this, when the board was presented and you adopted a budget, we incorporated a 1.5% decline already. So we are not having to eat all of that in one fell swoop because we created a budget that already, provided essentially the fact that we knew we were going to decline. The fact that we're at 3.8% is definitely a bit of a surprise. But the 100th day average daily membership will not be finalized. It'll be kind of signed, sealed, delivered when the state does its recalculation in July. So at that point, that's when the number becomes final, but this is based on the current projection we have today. So we are currently aiming at a 3.8% loss year over year on the 100th day. Just to provide kind of an overview, as Dr. Ravi mentioned, we bring you kind of an overview of the 5-year projection across revenues, our expenditures, what does it look like going forward. Right now, based on where we're at, we're looking at a balance of $4.1 million. If all holds right now, this essentially will be the last year we will have a positive carry forward balance before we will have to essentially make additional reductions in order for the carry forward balance to move forward. This doesn't include any of the changes that we're asking to do. So this is just basically as of today. It does not include the override as well, right? Because the override is over and above and is separate from the ongoing operations of the district. But as you can see, by FY30, we're at $26.7 million. That's the cumulative total, essentially or the net total, I should say, of the fund balance by fiscal year 30 going forward. So in those projections, you mentioned it previously, Dr. Ravi, there are no projected increases to the base support level beyond the 2%. That is the statutorily required minimum or maximum, I should say, by the state that we're required to receive. And so 2% is all we're projecting for the next couple of years. There is currently no resolution on Prop 123. We receive about $2.6 million. So after FY27, unless there's a solution by the state legislature, that money essentially will disappear, which is just under 10% of our total, or 1%, I should say, of our total M&O budget. So hopefully there is a resolution on Prop 123. We just don't know what that is based on the current temperature at the state legislature. One-time supplements for students who are eligible for free lunch. Those run out at the end of fiscal year 27 as well. There's a commitment right now in both the governor's budget and the legislative budget to continue those one more year, but beyond that, that is up in the air. So unless we see a solid commitment projected by the legislature, we're really not counting on those revenues coming back. On the positive side, we have this humongous solar array across the district that was put on debt service several CFOs ago. That debt service will run out by fiscal year 29, so that $2.8 million that we currently move out of M&O to pay for that debt service will now return essentially to M&O. We will have satisfied our leases on our solar panels. We have to talk about future salary increases beyond FY27. Compensation will always be something that I know that is important to us and to our employees. Just as a reminder, a 1% increase is approximately $4.5 million. We will see a 12% increase in benefits for next year. My colleague, John Fernandez, and I will talk about this with you at a future board meeting, but I can tell you right now that it's 12%. The industry average is hovering anywhere between 12 and 14. So we're definitely well within what is happening across the market of health insurance in this country. Utilities are expected to increase by 7%. For obvious reasons, Electricity is kind of the way it's gone. As I mentioned before, we pay the same corporate rate that Costco pays. There is not a separate rate for public schools, so whatever that corporate rate goes, so goes to USD. Beyond that, we're just reflecting a 1% increase. And because the ADM is tied to the revenue control limit, our capacity and our override will decrease, right? So we projected $45 million based on how our ADM has now changed. Currently, we're looking at a loss of $862,000 to the overall $45 million capacity. So we're now looking at about $44.2 million or so available for next fiscal year. So ADM definitely has an impact on our capacity in the override. So our proposed budget realignments for next year. So as I mentioned, $10 million is our goal, is a permanent reduction. We are starting with central budget reductions once again. We are looking at accumulating about $3.6 million across all central departments. The only two departments who will not contribute to this are risk management and utilities. So general liability and utilities, 100% of their budgets are exactly for that. There was a 2% reduction across 5 departments: Ex-Ed, facilities, fine arts, interscholastics, and school safety. All told, those 5 departments will contribute approximately $800,000 to the whole. And every other department not labeled up there will contribute the remaining 7% out of their adopted 25-26 budget, about $2.8 million. Every department in this district, with the exception of the ones mentioned there, will contribute 7% by the end of this fiscal year. There are additional reductions totaling $4.1 million that we will bring to the board on the 10th. We are finalizing those items. We are still kind of making sure that everything that we want to bring to you is possible, but we are looking at additional $4.1 million in other sectors of the district. And we are expecting turnover and attrition of about $2.3 million. We know that with a 3.8% decline, the number of positions we need in the classroom are not going to be the same. That doesn't mean that we're cutting teachers. That just means that as vacancies become available that are no longer necessary in a specific school site, we will essentially close that position. And that is salary that will not come back unless that school grows. So we are expecting about another $2.3 million in turnover and attrition to get to the full $10 million. Our carryover with these actions, our carryover without the override is estimated to increase $2.4 million. So we would decrease our deficit that we've projected in that 5-year deficit by half just by doing this. Now, anything above this is certainly gravy. If for some reason we get additional revenue through 1, 2, 3, if we get additional revenues through increases in the base support level and they're not reflected here, certainly that would be positive news to the bottom line, but currently that is not what we're projecting, so $10 million is the goal. Additional realignments is, kind of going back to the risk assessment plan to the Auditor General. That $10 million that we've been transferring from capital to M&O will be eliminated over the next 2 years. So $7 million of that $10 million will be returned to capital to 26-27. So that is going to contribute obviously to the loss in capacity in M&O simply because we're no longer going to have this $10 million. But that $7 million will be put right back into capital projects that we need addressed immediately, both on the instructional side and the operational side. And then another $3 million in fiscal year 28 will come off, and by that point, all $10 million will have been returned back to capital. Effectively, we are increasing the capital budget by $7 million next year. I know that is kind of music to the ears of our folks in operations and technology and transportation and curriculum, and we are going to work diligently to put together a really good capital improvement plan. Now, we will need additional permanent reductions beyond fiscal year 27. Currently, we're projecting another $5.5 million in fiscal 28, another $4.5 million in fiscal 29, and another $5 million in fiscal 30. With the goal of achieving $27 million by that point in fiscal year 30. That's, everything remaining consistent. The projections, as I mentioned, all still include a 1.5% year-over-year decline. I may get a little bit more conservative if we continue to see the trend in terms of the ADM moving further and further away from 1.5%. So what are the next steps? Again, we will identify and come back to the board on February 10th to discuss the $4.1 million in detail. We have started using the 100th ADM to calculate attrition and FTEs across the district. So we are in the process of providing schools with their budget FTE allocations and essentially what they will have or not have. We will seek and come back to you to discuss override funded positions and salary changes. Obviously, we want to make sure that we let you all know as we've committed and let the community know where we're funding, what we're funding out of the override and where everything is going. And finally, we will present to you a capital improvement plan and seek a budget for your approval later in February once we've got everything sorted out. So those are our upcoming next steps on additional budget development. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Quick question on the previous slide. So you mentioned the February 10th meeting, you're hoping to have the first bullet point to us. Is that just for an info session, or is that going to be some action?
It will probably be study action. Yeah,
Okay.
it will probably be just because, you know, it depends on exactly what we identify. We may need action from the board.
Okay, and then for the other bullet points, when do you propose a timeline on the other points to come to us for information or study action?
For the departments?
For the other
for the other three. So for the second bullet will just be part of the budgeting process.
Mm-hmm. That's what in May you said.
Yeah. So and the override funded positions, we hope to have those sometimes in the next month because we really need to get those, you know, out there, and we need to get information to our staff, especially around salaries. The capital improvement plan, our goal is to have it back to you by February 24th.
Okay, governing board members. All right, Ms. Shaw?
Could you talk a bit about the reduction to XED, $373,000?
Yeah, so currently that department we have not cut XED during any of the central department cuts that we've implemented over the last couple of years. So what we're looking for is that department to have a minimal contribution to the entire whole, which is why we focus not just on XED, but other departments that are essentially vital: facilities, fine arts, interscholastics, and school safety. And we want to make sure that there is some level of contribution. We want to make sure that departments are taking a look at, are they operating as efficiently as possible with the dollars that they're being given. XED is about a $40 to $45 million department. The vast majority are services to students or instructional support, but they do have administrative functions as well. And so the goal behind that is we want every department to focus on, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing, knowing that we don't have the capacity to sustain everything at the current level.
So those proposed cuts, are those coming from the administrative level, or are we going to see cuts to parapros?
That's the direction that departments are being given, is that cuts need to stay as far away from schools as possible and need to focus on administrative functions before they do anything else. So we will be evaluating those cuts as they present them to finance, and we'll present them to Dr. Trujillo for his approval as well.
Okay, and then the 100,000 cut to school safety?
Same thing. I mean, we're taking a look at, are they operating in the best efficient way possible? Certainly, these are our recommendations. We're welcome to receive, you know, feedback from the board if you want to make any changes to any of the itemized lists. Obviously, it becomes a whack-a-mole, right? So if we don't do a cut one place, we do need to identify some other place, because the further away we get from $10 million, the more we have to carry into cuts into future years. So we're leaving it up to departments to make those determinations based on their services.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, so you had mentioned on the other document with this item that has the budget reductions per department, XED is $19 million for it's not $45 million.
It's it's M&O, $19 million,
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
But you have to all the budget lines.
Yeah, it's a $45 million department when you include all sources.
Okay, and this is just including the M&O budget cuts.
This is just M&O, and it's not dollars that are specific at the school. These are dollars specific at the department level. So that $18 million does not account for parapros at sites, psychologists, any of the related service providers. These are just administrative central department dollars.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
You're welcome.
All right. And our last item is 10.1, future meeting dates and agenda items.
Yes, so we have a couple of items to highlight, coming up on February 10th. Where the budget advisory recommendations are going to be coming. We've reset that. We're going to be bringing forward our budget package more explicitly. Appreciate the board give us a little bit more time to work with our association leaders to flesh out some of those details, but we expect to be back on February 10th. I know that Mrs. Balboa, you have a couple of dates in terms of adding some virtual sessions. We know the board is headed into the thick of administrative hiring season. We want to build in a couple of virtual sessions, one in February, one in March, so we can do more candidate reviews and application reviews with the board. Ms. Balboa?
So the dates I have proposed are February 3rd, February 17th, March 3rd, and March 24th. Those are all Tuesdays. And we would start at 5 o'clock via Zoom.
Did you already poll all of us in terms of availability?
I sent the email, but I only received 2 responses.
Okay.
Because of the other, sorry.
So how many do we need, Dr. Trujillo? We need, we have executive sessions with our general board meetings on the February 10th and February 24th.
So we're going to build in 2. We see we're going to have some real estate. We're going to have some negotiations items coming at us in those months. Usually 3 of those agenda items will create a packed exec session, so we're building these in as reserve.
Right. I know March 3rd is going to be work for me. Does that work for other folks? Do we have a quorum for March 3rd?
I can do March 3rd. I can also do February 3rd.
March 3rd is better for me than February 3rd.
Okay, so I'm hearing majority available March 3rd for an executive session. That'll be from 5 to 7 we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the other dates, on the 17th, I already have a commitment with TEA for a forum, so I'm not able to make anything on the 17th. But if all 4 of you are available that day, I could be absent for 1 meeting.
What was the date of that again?
17th of February.
St. Patrick's Day.
February 17th, not March 17th.
I see. Thank you. February 17th.
I'm available.
Yeah, I suppose.
So I see 2 people available on the 17th of February.
There's 3.
Oh, all 4, okay. All right, so I'll make a motion then. We're going to have an executive session on February 17th and March 3rd, and that we can cancel the next board meeting if we need to based on needs. All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any opposition? All right, I'll take unanimous consent for those 2 items, for those 2 dates to be added for our exec session. Okay, anything else, Dr. Trio? All right, I'll close our meeting.
Yeah. Dr. Shaw?
Ms. Shaw, go ahead.
I would like to add an item to a future agenda. If we can get the communications director here for a presentation on the media campaign for enrollment for the next school year, I would like that listed as an action item, so that the board can have a say in all the money spent towards boosting our enrollment and modifying any campaign if we deem it necessary.
And with that item, can we get in the same time a summary from CASA 6,
Yes.
K-12 about what the situation was this last fall in terms of enrollment with them?
Yeah, we're going to lump that in with the K-6. So we'll do the K-6 as requested by Ms. Ekstrom. We can add in the CASA as well.
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.